access to justice by reshaping its operations. In the said mandate, CJ Kome called on the newly graduated magistrates to enhance their judicial performance to ensure that the problem of the log of cases is eliminated from the judiciary. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, say, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Have you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice. Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
We're right in the middle of the week, and what does it have in store in terms of traffic this Wednesday morning? It's already started on Jogoro this morning. I'm trying to get into the CBD. Not everyone has gotten the memo, because on Langata Road today it looks pretty good, as it does on Gong Road coming into the city. Coming out of Westlands, a bit of slow movement, but nothing of the dramatic nature, at least not yet. Thika Superhighway is free and clear. Lamu Road also looking pretty good. As you're getting into the city, you should not have too much of an issue. So it looks as though Wednesday morning isn't starting off too badly, but we're going to have to keep an eye on things and see how they develop over the next half hour or so. We have a little bit of in and outbound traffic on Juja Road, but nothing too painful. Let's see where the action is going to be in about half an hour. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
6. Good morning. How are you doing? Happy Wednesday, wherever you are tuned in this morning. It's the 12th day of January 2021. 22. Ndu Okoh?
Yes.
Habari yako?
Mzuri sana, habari yako?
I'm very well. Yes.
Okay.
Say hello to C.T. Muga.
C.T. Muga, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Nimefurahi kukuona.
Hata mimi sana. Happiness.
Siku yako jana ilikuwaje?
Siku yangu ilikuwa maridadi.
Kabisa.
Until power decided to outage.
Stima ikapotea Nairobi mzima jana.
Ilienda kwao.
Kenya mzima.
Kenya mzima. Na kuna wengine bado saa hii hawana stima.
Na ukiangalia mita, you will find that even during that outage you're still being charged.
No, we're implementing 15%
They're
drop.
being charged outage fees.
It is Speak Swahili Wednesday.
15% drop in power bills.
15% drop in
consumption.
in power availability.
Yes. How else are you going to achieve it?
It makes sense.
They never told us until they touch tax. This is not possible. So this is how we best we can implement it. Anyway, it's a big thing, that one, that some power pylons collapsed in Nairobi and they led to that outage in the entire country. The Kenya Power engineers say they've been working on this throughout. It came back on and then another line collapsed again.
Working on what exactly?
See, on first of all, repairing the pylons.
And they don't go around checking to see if these pylons are intact, because those things don't just collapse.
They check, but you see now if a pylon does not talk to you and tell you, unajua nasikia
kuanguka.
nasikia
I'm feeling dizzy.
You look at the pylon, it looks fine. It doesn't tell you.
The looking and the feeling and the touching, that's social science. Pylon, steady, immovable, you're in engineering. There are no ifs and buts. It's not qualitative.
Yes.
No, it's quantitative kabisa.
Yes.
So, your story, mimi nauliza our engineer.
You're not buying.
Whose job it is to ensure, because power line tunaiona tu.
City.
But whatever holds that power line, you're trying to tell us that you don't have the mechanism and the wherewithal
To tell. Yeah, you may.
And there are people who are employed to do this, by the way.
CT. Even those guys called NASA who send things to space, all right? They have worked many years preparing a mission to space.
True.
They launch and the thing does not even pass.
No,
our
it just
atmosphere.
explodes.
It explodes.
Yes.
Yet those very many engineers had worked very hard. Number one, safety.
You know, Eric,
So
you are right, because space technology, no, not with pylons. That's not space technology. This one, chuma imewekwa, and then wire imepitishwa juu ya hiyo chuma. It is not complicated.
Because umekuwa engineer, si ndio?
Si mimi Mkenya. all you need
is just no engineer, just there's engineer and there's pilot.
And I know one or two engineers, enough.
That's
and then I'm a Kenyan.
Yeah.
I understand the whole thing.
Done.
Okay, welcome to the conversation. We'll be discussing these and other stories this morning. Plus, yesterday the headline in The Nation was talking about, rising poverty levels in the country based on a survey conducted by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, released in 2020. And so we want to ask the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, so is it what you found? Are Kenyans actually getting poorer? And what are the indicators? What is it that you are using as the benchmarks? So we'll have a senior manager from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to talk to us about that and how the economy is faring, various things to look at. And then at 8 o'clock, we talk about the new voter registration exercise, enhanced voter registration exercise that's to be rolled out by the IEBC from the 17th. When is the 17th? Is it Monday?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, from Monday. Okay. So we'll be joined by somebody who's an expert on matters of elections, election preparedness. Ambassador Kokimuli will be with us at 8 a.m. Keep it right here for that and more. Is COVID?
All right. Just 300,000 cases shy of 1 million is what the United States recorded in terms of COVID-19 numbers yesterday. 672,000 cases in 24 hours in the U.S. And this is also happening at a time where the World Health Organization has warned that half of Europe will have caught the Omicron COVID variant within the next 6 to 8 weeks. So looking at 2 months of some drama in this part. Dr. Hans Kluge said a west to east tidal wave of Omicron was sweeping across the region on top of a surge in the Delta variant. The projection was based on the 7 million new cases reported across Europe in the first week of 2022. The number of infections has more than doubled in a 2-week period. I mean, yesterday, what do we look at in terms of global numbers? And that has risen by 5 million. In 24 hours, the globe has recorded an extra 5 million COVID cases. According to Dr. Kluge, today the Omicron variant represents a new west to east tidal wave sweeping across the region on top of a Delta surge. So it's not just Omicron doing its thing. Delta is still. And He quoted the Seattle-based Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation as forecasting that more than 50% of the population in the region will be infected with Omicron in the next 6 to 8 weeks. How about we take a look at what's happening here? 1,105 new cases of COVID-19 from a sample size of 6,945. There's a drop in the positivity rate, now down to 15.9%. Still high, though, much higher than what you want it to be, about 3 times higher than what you want it to be. I thought it was an interesting statistics because today, Kenya now has 3 times the number of COVID-19 cases that China had. China just having recorded over 100,000 cases, even with the initial quick surge of things. So they've been able to keep things under a bubble. But at the same time, you know what they've been doing? Just quietly creating and producing their own vaccines, vaccinating their people and getting this thing sorted out.
Getting on with life.
I'm telling you, moving on with life and even having a visit to Africa and saying, you need more money? Let's get this thing done. You guys are still talking about COVID. They're conquering the world. So, you know, they've been able to get things done in their neck of the woods, and that continues. So these are the things that are happening around the world with COVID in Kenya.
How many cases in hospital?
Okay, so this is...
In Kenya.
In Kenya? All right. I'll give you that in about 3, 2, 1. According to the statement from the Ministry of Health yesterday, from the 1,105 new cases of COVID. Okay, it's loading. A little bit slower than we'd like, of course, but I'll give you that information later.
No steamer.
But Hakuna steamer, right? Where it's loading from. Got it. However, we are looking at the majority of the cases that have been recorded under home-based care and isolation. We don't have a heavy hospital issue like we did previously.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's also important to note, actually, even as we talk about the global figures as well, the number of the cases currently that are considered severe and all are still less than 100,000.
Yes.
Of the very many millions that are being recorded, still globally less than 100,000 cases that are being considered as severe. Which is some light at the end of the tunnel. It's 17 after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues, and we are live streaming it online, SpiceFM KE on YouTube and Facebook. And if you are online on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, say hello to us. We'll be saying hello to you shortly after we take a look at the weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Clear conditions mostly. It's still out dark out in Nairobi. Highs of 25 and lows of 16. Clear at 12 in Nakuru. Highs of 28 and lows of 11 today. 10 degrees and clear in Nyeri town. Highs of 25 and lows of 10. It's 13 degrees and clear in Eldoret. Highs of 25. Back down to lows of 13 today. Clear conditions in Mombasa at 25. Highs of 32 and we'll see highs of 31 in Malindi. Rates mostly clear currently at 27. Kisumu, clear at 20, highs of 33 and lows of 19, while we're looking at clear conditions at 15 in Kakamega. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 15. All right, taking a look into Kampala, it's mostly cloudy at 17, highs of 30 today, while in Dar es Salaam, mostly cloudy at 28, we'll see highs of 32, back down to lows of 27. Johannesburg is partly cloudy at 15, highs of 23 today, while at 33 will be recorded as a high in Lagos. It's currently clear at 26. Light rain in Kinshasa at 25. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 25. Looking out into Beijing where the sun is out, but it's freezing at -3. We'll just see highs of 3 and lows of -7. It's a foggy morning in Paris. It's 0 degrees, right on that scale. Highs of 4 and lows of -1 today. London, slightly warmer at 5 degrees, highs of 8 and lows of 5. And we're looking at New York, -6. Clear conditions, however. That'll be the high for today at -6 and lows of -8.
Mature, intelligent talk.
It's
every
21
morning.
minutes after 6.
Spice up.
Who's online?
White Rhino, otherwise known as Njeru, is tuned in at 94.4 somewhere in Nairobi, and he says, Hakuna Matata Ata Wakizima Steamer. Huh, all right. Good morning, tuned in from Daraweta, Bomet County. Don't ever trust KPLC, he says. I realized yesterday that they also have backup generators in their own offices. Well, Benson Kiplagat is not too happy this morning. Edwin Washira, good morning. Listening to you from University of Nairobi and listening to the ground. He's still listening to the ground, Eric.
Yeah.
And he says he will get back to you before the 9th of February 2022.
I think this guy has been paid by my detractors.
Or he's been paid by Oka to sing the same song that
He's coming here to tell me that he's listening to the ground on my behalf so that he can tell me what's it to vie for. And then it'll be too late.
I mean, you're not the only
He's
one.
been paid to block me from vying.
Look, there are other people in this, there are other, groups in this country who have yet to say what it is they're doing.
No, okay, sure. They've said that on the
Why
ballot.
don't you vie for something a little more domesticated?
He doesn't
Like
even know
what?
what he's vying for yet.
What is domestic? Like what?
See, I'm trying to advise you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Like
Church elder.
the ground has to tell me.
That one, I think it's God who has to tell you.
Chris J. Amolo is tuned in from Europe today and says, happy to be here. Thank you so much. David Miendo says, good morning. Nashon Musa says, hello as well. Stanley Gashistan said he's tuned in from Mount Kilimanjaro. And he says that powered but seeking alternative sources of power. Solar power installation is not going to be controlled by some government agencies, hopefully. Good morning, TSR from the Great Wall of Kino. Alafu, is it electricity prices that were reduced by 15% or the supply is the one that was reduced by 15%? Which
Or
is
both.
which? Oh, come on, guys. All right. 24 hours of misery is what it looked like. Beta Ashley says, good morning. Tuned in from Machakos. And quite a number of people tuned in this morning saying, hello, Martin, Robert, Nahla Vikwa, all the way from South Africa. Peter Ongera says, good morning from Lukenya. Let's take a minute to note how the Super Eagles clipped the Pharaohs yesterday 1-0. Good morning.
Yeah, it was a good game by the Nigerians. Very good game. Congratulations to Nigerians, both in Cameroon and in Nigeria.
I know what you're doing,
What?
but I'll forgive you for now.
No, I'm just congratulating Nigerians. City, today's proverb.
This one you will like.
Him or us?
You as in plural. You.
Oh, voila.
Y'all.
Y'all.
So, umepata All right. Kupenda sio kitu. Kupendwa ni kitu. Lakini kupendwa na kupenda ni kila kitu.
Kupenda sio kitu.
Hapana.
Kupendwa ni kitu. Lakini kupenda na kupendwa
ni kila kitu.
Okay. In English. For the sake of
to love
Vikwa
is not really such a big thing. To be loved is a big thing. But to love and to be loved, man, that's everything.
Okay. It's a nice one.
Told you you'd like it. Y'all.
You'll love it.
Yes. Ini nyinyi yote.
Nyinyi yote tapenda.
Yes.
Let's look at the headlines in the paper. Standardmedia.co.ke. Access your content in the Standard newspaper on a daily basis. As news breaks, it breaks right there. So, I know, let's look at the blackouts.
Okay, so blackouts, the hard questions, and the conspiracy theories that jumped out at us yesterday. Groping in the dark seems to be what KPLC was doing yesterday. Faced with tough questions over rising power outages, electricity bosses could not offer a satisfactory explanation after 4 pylons suddenly came tumbling down, cutting off power countrywide. So this is covered on page 4 and 5 of the Standard. It's covered also in other papers as well. So let's look at a few of the details. Hours of darkness and a wishy-washy explanation. That is what Kenyans were fed yesterday following a nationwide power outage. There has been no spectacular wind, no hailstorm, no earthquake, nothing out of the ordinary. The towers just came tumbling down like the walls of Jericho. In this case, nobody was shouting. It came down like a house of cards, knocking off some shillings from the balance sheet of many businesses. Even high-ranking officials from Kenya Power and the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO, did not have a ready answer as to what caused the 4 towers to fall. According to Kenya Power Acting Managing Director Rosemary Odor, as investigations continue to find what caused the towers to collapse, a team of experts together with engineers on the ground are hoping to have power restored by the end of the day, which was one of the first statements that we heard earlier on. The chair of the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, Joe Mutambo, also assured Kenyans that power would be fully restored throughout the country by the end of the day. We know that as we speak now, there are some people who slept without power. KETRACO's acting MD, Anthony Wamukota, urged residents to give the specialists an easy time to work and restore the towers and find the cause of the collapse. The collapse of the 4 towers on the Kiambere-Embakasi high-voltage transmission power line occurred at about 10:45 a.m., according to the KPLC statement. Engineers were on the ground working. Monday, there was another outage that had affected several parts of Nairobi, leading to an outrage, by Kenyans on Twitter. The national power outage is a national security issue. Clearly, if you can't see why, then there's a problem. Power players are expected to have a contingency plan or at least a plausible explanation. Neither of those yesterday for those many hours was available. Kenyans were just left groping in the dark, literally. But it is the frequency of these outages over the last 2 or so months that has got Kenyans worked up. The public is still waiting for an explanation on what caused the collapse of the 430-kilometer long 400 kilovolts transmission line from Leongalani to the Suswa substation, resulting in power rationing between 7 to 9:30 p.m. And we had been told that in a couple of months, this will be a thing of the past. That was announced from the Ministry of Energy. But this was happening just before Christmas, and we were told that in the next few months that would be done with. So there are many questions that are rising. Why the shortages? Why these outages? Why over the last couple of months have we seen what we have seen? But those 2 things. 1, you should always have a backup plan. And in the event that there's an outage of such nature, you should have a watertight explanation. And unfortunately, yesterday, none of these things happened.
Let's separate a couple of issues. Number 1, there was no issue at all with any of the power generators yesterday. Not Kengen or the Seven Forks or a Lake Turkana wind power plant or the thermal generators or the geothermal There was no issue with the generation. There was no issue with the distribution of power to your home. There was an issue with transmission. That is KETRACO. Yes, Kenya Power, of course, is the one that releases the statement because you are affected as a consumer.
And they're the ones who get kicked in the teeth.
They're the ones who sell you the power, but it was not them.
No.
It is KETRACO. So KETRACO's lines came tumbling down yesterday in Embakasi. KETRACO's line from Loyangalani to Suswa came tumbling down in December. KETRACO's system from Suswa to Embakasi last night had issues that led to some parts of Nairobi, some parts of Athi River, some parts of Machakos County and North Rift not having power. And yes, that's where now the questions start coming in. Where are these pylons coming down? Who's in charge of maintenance of these pylons? Who's checking them? What are they checking? These high voltage pylons, first of all, have a wear leave.
They do.
It's 220 kilovolts of power.
That's a lot of power.
That is some serious power. They have wear leave. There's all these talks of, they're made of steel, so, steel and scrap metal dealers and
That notwithstanding, something that is of such significance. You see, power is not just an economic issue, it's a security issue.
Yes.
To understand it, in the days ahead of us, you're going to hear of the consequences of what we are talking about. Now, if one understands that it's a security issue, then one ought to understand the importance and the focus that should be given to ensuring that, barring an act of God, those lines are never tampered with for whatever reason.
Yeah.
If you tell us you're shutting down the transmission because of maintenance, we'll understand. After all, it happens. And we are told this particular area will not have power because of this. It's something that we live with. However, if you look at the sequence of events, and now we are moving from sequence to frequency of events, one has to ask the question, do we and should we anticipate more problems of this nature? Because if it has happened in these areas, what guarantees do we have that it won't happen in other areas as well?
And what really is happening?
Yes.
Because, look, Ketraco has been working on building power lines for a very long time. In fact, they have improved the power distribution in the country tremendously. And there were no issues.
None.
And then we have these conversations about the power sector. We have changes at the energy ministry. And then the first one we see, all right, power coming from Lake Turkana wind power farm in Loyangalani towards the Suswa substation. There's an issue with the line. It stays down for a while. It affects distribution. It means that you're paying the company because it's still generating power. Wind turbines are still turning. It's just that you are not taking the power to your consumers.
They're doing their bit.
You're paying for it. But the power lines have come down. Now again, some power lines come down in Embakasi suddenly.
Embakasi. It's not
Those
wrong.
ones are being sorted out. As they're being sorted out, some power issue happens in a different line that brings in power. Not now from Kiambere in Kitui County, but from Suswa and Kajiado. What is happening? Really? Those are the questions, maybe. It's 6:30. Let's take this break. Take a look at the traffic. What's happening on the roads? Muko na stima kwa barabara. Washata. We'll find out shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your...
ABSA was very responsive when COVID came about. And one of the things that we worked together on was for them to give us a facility to enable us buy materials in huger volumes than we were buying.
ABSA introduced a product to us known as the Trade Management Online. It's fast and it's safe. ABSA has helped us bring our possibilities to life, hence making us the home of quality.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
It's on Jogger Road that we see it building up just a little bit as you're trying to get into the city today. And then maybe I spoke too soon because then Langata Road seemed to have heard me and everybody seems to be piling up on Langata Road today. But it's not too crazy just yet, so I wouldn't be too worried. If you're out, you should be all right. If you're not, you could leave now and still be all right. If you're going to get stuck on Langata Road, don't forget that the southern bypass is looking pretty good and you can get onto Ngong Road without too much of an issue. At the roundabout, though, however, coming off Raila Odinga Way, you will have a little bit of a hold up then going towards community, but like I said, nothing too sticky about that just yet. All right, on the Thika Superhighway, where it's building up is just at the Pagani underpass, getting into the city. Juja Road had some traffic earlier and that continues even now. Coming out of Westlands, that traffic of the ... nature has already begun. But use the Red Hill Link Road if you're trying to get into the city. You shouldn't have a problem. And now it seems that after 6:30 is when we see the build-up that normally happens on Limuru Road, and that is already going on. Okay, Mombasa Road, what are we looking at? Sabaki coming out towards the Weybridge and then off towards the SGR. It's slowly building up, but nothing too painful. Let's talk to each other, guys. Are you stuck somewhere? You find a good route? Let us know on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
25 to 7.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Related to security. Number one, let's start in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Women in Kerio Valley trekked 20 kilometers to demand the transfer of security officials in the volatile area over security lapses. Kerio Valley has witnessed cattle rustling and bandit attacks for decades, resulting in deaths and loss of property. The protesters, who included widows, walked to Marakwet East Deputy County Commissioner Simon Osumba's office in Chesoi, and they have said they will stage another march to State House Nairobi to ask President Uhuru Kenyatta himself to address insecurity in Kerio Valley. Since June last year, deadly attacks in the area have resulted into more than 50 deaths. The Monday protests were the third in the last 3 months. In October, hundreds of locals protested in Liter after a woman and her 2 children and an agricultural officer were killed. Another demo took place in November after 4 herders were shot dead. They are demanding the transfer of senior security and administration officials in Elgeyo Marakwet, saying they have failed to contain the situation. So what they're saying is, young men are killed in villages, but security operators claim they are shot dead along the borders. And they're saying, this is not the case. There were gunshots as we marched to the sub-county headquarters, but we were determined to present our complaints to the government. Rosemary Cheboy, who's a widow, says, we are tired of children asking us where their fathers are. Many children in Kerio Valley have no fathers. This is a situation that's happening there, as in the government is treating it like it's normal now. Kerio Valley, people have guns, people shoot. The Elgeyo Marakwet Deputy Governor, Wesley Rotich, is faulting security agencies for failing to act firmly against bandits. He says, when, for example, a Kenyan in Nairobi is killed in Nairobi, the suspects are arrested and prosecuted. But when it comes to Kerio Valley, elected leaders are told to dialogue with the bandits. How am I dialoguing with an armed criminal? That's a question. In the area that, wacha wananchi wasungumuse. In Nairobi, somebody is shot dead. The criminal is arrested.
Yep.
Second story on security. Police are zeroing in on individuals who are said to be behind the violence in Lamu County as land and politics are blamed for the ethnic clashes that have so far claimed 13 lives. Detectives are studying the pattern of killings to find links to ethnic cleansing. DPP Nordin Haji has asked the police to investigate Lamu businessman Abubakar Amana because of some utterances which have been circulating on social media. He says, we refer to a video clip circulating on social media in which Mr. Amana addresses a press conference on December 19th last year in Lamu County. The alleged remarks refer to certain parts of Kenya belonging to certain tribes and tribal background being a precondition for running for office. Basically, that clip is basically saying, we know there are 8 provinces in this country and we know the residents of those 8 provinces. In Coast, we know, for example, if we go to Tana River, we know the residents of Tana River. We know the people of Lamu. Now, there are some parts of Lamu which are not inhabited by Lamu people. They look like the central province. He's saying such kind of things. And he's saying, it's okay, you can come and live here. But when it comes to leadership, a local and indigenous should occupy a position of leadership. We've had that same argument here with the senator for Narok County, Ledamo Lekina, remember?
Yes.
Saying, if you go to a certain area, the indigenous people there should take up leadership. We can say, let's have that debate, open debate. But should that lead to people being evicted because of trying to suppress the number of voters in a region so that you don't have non-locals, so to speak, voting?
It shouldn't be that it takes it to such an extreme, clearly. That because what you're trying to do is to preserve a cultural people, or preserve them, or then put them in positions of leadership and give them a shot, that poses a potential danger to others.
There's an element of cultural intolerance that very many leaders preach. It's
consciously or otherwise.
Oh, no. On that subject, I do not give any quarter.
It is consciously.
It's deliberate. Because they use it as a campaign tool. You are talking about the history of this country and how it is members of the Kikuyu community ended up in Lamu. Well, why don't we just look at this particular story properly and tell us and ask ourselves what it is that brought that about? People, without necessarily being moved by the government of the day, move on their own. They go from place to place to place. And you know what they do? They carry with them their culture and the way in which they live and they do things. Now, instead of looking at the beauty and the learning process that you have with this diversity, there are people who are determined that this diversity must be given a negative tinge. They are determined. Suddenly you are an outsider in your own country.
Yep.
In your own country, you're an outsider. You know, it's a perilous route. It's a dangerous route. And yet, people say they condemn it. You know, I have to go back to the utterances of Senator Linturi. When he made them, did anybody stand up to say, excuse me, you cannot say that?
Yeah, stop it now.
Did anybody stand up and comment the things that Richard Onyonka said? Did anybody stand? I mean, all these things we keep. Did anybody stand up and say, excuse me, that is not the right thing to say? No. So when people keep quiet, what does it tell you? They agree with you.
Yep.
Oh, silence. You can assume that
they're happy with it.
They're okay with it.
Yeah.
Now, the consequences of these things are the thing that I want to focus on, because people always think, well, it is just some other. No, it is not just some other comment. These things have consequences, and those consequences are dire. You cannot possibly overstate the consequences. Because when you keep making these statements, you know what you're doing? You're giving people license. And there's a quiet understanding that it is okay.
It's okay.
Yes.
Nothing happened. So in those two incidences that I've quoted, Kerio Valley and Lamu, clearly the security agencies are aware of what's happening. Like now the police are zeroing in on. What is zeroing in on? How many more people need to die before you actually finally zero in? Okay. Third security story. 4 security officers were on Monday killed in Garissa County by bandits. The attackers also stole their weapons. Northeastern Regional Police Commander Rono Bunei says security forces are in pursuit of the attackers. Our security officers were ambushed as they were patrolling along the Liboi-Kulan road by people who we suspect to be bandits. It's unfortunate we lost 4 officers, but we dispatched a combined security team to comb the area. According to Rono, the area has recorded several bandit attacks targeting public service vehicles. He says security teams continue to search for the bandits for the second day, and the operation will be called off after the bandits are apprehended. A local administrator within Liboi has called the police and reported a shootout with Damajales Junction. A report from Liboi police station indicated a team of security officers who responded to the distress call found 4 officers had been shot. The 4 were patrolling in a probox and they have been identified. Insecurity here. Remember, we are not talking about Al-Shabaab. It is bandits.
Yep.
The regional commissioner is calling them bandits. So this is not an external aggression.
It's locals.
This is local. And if those are 4 cops killed in Garissa, 4 cops killed in Lamu, many other cops killed in other parts of the country, how many police officers need to die before their bosses actually take action? It's completely frustrating.
It really is.
Let's take a break and then we look at other headlines in the papers. It's 6:45. Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, on SpiceFM and live streaming the show, SpiceFM KE on Facebook and YouTube and www.spicefm.co.ke.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
So
right.
City, apart from the photo
94.4
of the star, what else are you looking at?
Wow.
You know, there are things you
Or you
read,
can just tell us about the
and
photo
you
and the
want- Let
caption.
me talk about the photo and the caption. Okay. I mean, when you buy a paper and the headline is Bishop charged with fondling woman's breasts, these headlines, you know, you look at this thing and you wonder, God Almighty.
Qu'est-ce que c'est à
this
faire?
one. How exactly do you handle this one?
This is on the front page.
Yes,
Bishop charged
with fondling, yes.
woman's breasts.
This is the ACK Bishop, Nairobi Diocese, Bishop Joel Oweru. Now, the story is actually told on page 9. And I've read the story.
Is it the one about a church in Langata? It's a different one.
It's a different one.
Hey, okay, go on.
You would have been surprised.
So far, this whole story talks about charges against the bishop, which the bishop has denied. Okay. I state the view that there are two things here. Why would this woman lay these charges against the bishop, which is clear, someone who's clearly her bishop? And the bishop, of course, has denied them. All right? And why would this story be a headline story? Page, not page 1, page 0 of the newspaper. Yani, right at the...
Right there.
You buy the paper, you're seeing it. Okay? Why? This isn't the first time we're hearing of these stories. In fact, one could argue that there was a lull over Christmas, and now we are back at it again. Men of the cloth being accused of the very things that they are not expected to do. The question I'm asking is it that we are seeing that old green-eyed, no, this one isn't green-eyed, this is a red-eyed monster that is seeking to creep into the church, where there are people who particularly perhaps don't like this particular bishop. And they figured, you know what? Why don't we tar this man with some really dark brush? Why do I mention this? I recall there was some drama outside the Supreme Court when there's a lady who claimed at that particular point in time, very loudly and very dramatically, that she had not received child support from our then CJ, one Justice Maraga. It turned out that it was just smoke, it was just hot air, there was no truth whatsoever.
Yeah.
The Chief Justice denied it, but there were naysayers who said, So, is it also a fondness that we have for wanting to believe the worst of people who are in positions of leadership?
It seems that there's an appetite for it, though.
Yes.
That in as much as somebody may create a story, but you will find that there are very many who would gobble it up
immediately and start
without
digesting it.
scrutinizing it and then just, judge, jury, the gavel is down. Done. you know? So it's as though our human nature is to enjoy scandal. That there's a scandal that pops up and we're all, you know, very ready to consume without, you know, asking questions. The initial assumption is that this individual did this thing and we want to have as many more gory details as possible.
You know, circumstantial issues in this story are so many.
Yeah.
So
Where
many.
is this alleged to have taken place?
This one is supposed to have taken place in the church. No. I am actually telling you this because it is what is in the papers, not not I. The incidents that is being reported by this particular lady is that it's a gory story.
Okay.
But it is what she has reported. Okay? Then I ask the question again. Why would she make this up?
Yeah.
I have to ask that question. Why? What does she stand to gain by making this up?
True. Must be asked.
Hey. Okay.
Another pickle of an incident.
Uh-huh.
A man has been buried in his neighbor's farm due to a family dispute. Family does not know where and when Peter Kihagi's mother was buried. So now this will give you some context to the story. Family members of an 84-year-old man who died in Nyeri County 5 months ago heaved with relief early this week when a neighbor allowed them to bury the body on his farm. Peter Kihagi died at Mukuruweni Sub-County Hospital and his body lay at the mortuary for all that time. Kihagi's cousin, Charles Wangogo, obtained a court order halting the burial at his Gishira village home in Tetu. The elderly man's relatives and friends finally buried him on Monday. Kihagi's mother, Beatrice Waihoini, died in 1992 and was not interred by the family for the same reason. Relatives and family friends say they do not know where and when the matriarch was buried, suggesting she might have been disposed of in a mass grave by health authorities, as happens with unclaimed bodies. The family was afraid the same would happen to the old man's remains, with mortuary bills piling and family members having exhausted their resources. They approached their neighbor, Stephen Mureithi, and pleaded for space to bury Kihagi. We had been tortured mentally and financially. It was a very painful experience. We did not want a repeat of what happened to our grandmother, according to Kihagi's daughter, Beatrice Wamboi. It is reported that the family knows where our father is buried. The options were slim. We were brought up here and do not know any other place we could take him. We are very grateful. My father died as he waited for a ruling on a land case.
So there's been a land dispute for the longest time.
Yes.
And where this family says where they were brought up, where they've lived, that's the land in dispute.
Yes. The cousin now of the deceased now went to court and sought an order that no burial could take place on this land.
Until we determine whose land it is.
Land it actually is. So,
and then now it actually comes down to a neighbor who is not a blood relative.
No, but said
to say
it's ridiculous.
It's okay.
Come and
I
bury
own
him
this
here.
piece of land of mine. Just bury him here.
Yeah. So now he's been buried, and but we also it's interesting because the tradition and practice or the desire would have been that this man be buried on land that is their own or that is ancestral, and that could not happen because of all this back and forth. And 5 months after he's died, and they're like, you know what, we can't continue paying these bills. What are we going to do?
Hey, it's a tough one. I have a story from the coast, and this is about schools. Police are holding 3 students from Murray Girls High School, or is it Murray Girls High School?
Murray in Taita.
Murray Girls High School for suspected arson attempt. The institution is one of the oldest and the best performing secondary schools in the coast region. It was constructed in 1905 by the Church Missionary Society. It brings to 5 the number of students so far arrested for alleged arson in the coast. 2 other students from St. Mary's Boys High School in Lushangonyi were also arrested for burning a dormitory last Sunday. According to the Mwatate Sub-County Police Boss, Abdille Ahmed, the suspects will be taken to court this week. The commander says officers recovered a jerrycan full of petrol, firewood and books which the students were planning to use to torch one of the dormitories at the school with over 700 students. The Form 3 students confessed that they wanted to burn the school and recovered some exhibits from them. We'll seek a custodial order to detain them and complete our investigations before charging them. Schools have just reopened. And the issues that were there as we went to the holidays are still there. Students in Form 3 caught with a jerrycan of kerosene, some firewood, and the intention is to torch a dormitory.
You know, there is this concept that is often used by people who have studied psychological analysis, copycatting.
Mm-hmm.
The burning of schools, if you look at its metamorphosis, has gone beyond protest. It's now a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
People who have burnt down a school. They're not just your average.
You earn your stripes.
Because when you look at how it's caught on and how you keep hearing of these cases. This is a girls' school, by the way.
Imagine.
We had a similar incident.
Do you remember Bombolulu?
I remember Bombolulu. Do you remember Nairobi Moi girls?
I remember Moi girls in Nairobi.
Yes.
And the students were they found culpable?
Yes,
Guilty?
they were. Yes,
just
they were.
the other day.
Yes, they were.
So is it that these lessons are not acting as a deterrent, or is it that the lessons are actually not loud enough, such that the students of Murray girls have not heard of what has happened to those who participated in the torching?
They have heard, but that doesn't deter them.
Going to jail is
No. It's too remote. It's far. It's far.
It won't happen to me.
And you don't also...
What happened to the students of Bombolulu, of Changuli? That is
that was
remote.
It's far removed.
That's before their time, and it happened a very, very, very long time ago. You see, the one thing we fail to admit is that there are criminal elements among us. There are people who are inclined towards crime. There are those you call sociopaths. Technical term for them. Then the extreme form, the ones we call psychopaths. Okay? But one of the things about such people is that the emotions you feel and the emotions you attach to certain things, it's not that they try. They don't need to try. They are not that way inclined.
They're not wired that way.
No. They don't see it that way. Now, one of the things about education and one of the things about teaching young people is not just going to class and supposedly passing on information and knowledge. No, you're supposed to understand them. There are people who will be peculiar. The people will be odd. Part of your job as a teacher is to try and understand.
If you were paying attention, you would see those.
That this person is inclined towards this and the other. If you think back to the days when you were in school, when a problem would arise, the people would be rounded up. They'd just be the so-and-so. They had long been earmarked. They're just being watched. So when an incident occurs, they don't even bother looking for the culprits. They know who to call in. And that issue would be resolved very quickly because you'd soon find they actually knew who were the people who would be ringleaders. It hasn't changed. By and large, human beings tend to be followers. But there'll be those who have this capacity to be able to stir things and to lead things. Unfortunately, those who are in the process, who are in the business of educating the young, this particular aspect of getting to understand these people whom they are imparting knowledge to, we've skipped it. It's not quite there. There's a complete disconnect.
And that's why it's contributory as a factor in terms of why things then go wrong.
Yes. You know, attention-seeking behavior manifests itself in the oddest of ways.
Yeah.
Now, all this, when they were gathering books, getting fuel, are you telling me that the student body, people didn't know what these people were doing?
I think they knew. And that's how come they were arrested even before they had done it.
Yes.
There was some information that was being passed and they were being watched, and so they had to be nabbed with
precisely
proper evidence.
So what does that tell you? At least there are people here who are in touch with what's happening in their school.
Indeed.
Okay? Now, how many other schools do we have where they are completely out of touch?
They're caught unawares.
Completely. And yet they don't need to have been caught unawares.
But there's something that's happening with our young generation that really, as you call it, copycatting, whatever it is.
The main culprit, Eric, even as we go into the hour, is us, those who are older and those in positions of leadership. They look at what we do when we have issues. They look at what unions do. They look at all these things and they say, aha!
And the consequences.
Yes, so this is the path to follow.
We are teaching them. We are teaching them something.
Yes, we are teaching them.
Keep it right here for Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues into the next hour. We talk about the latest statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. What are they showing us? Are we getting poorer? Are we getting better as life goes on? This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM and online. A very good morning to you. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Despite the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company KETRACO assuring Kenyans that electricity services will return to normal by yesterday evening, a section of Kenyans spent the night in the dark. Kenya Power Company announced the disruption of the services in the country, with KETRACO chairperson Joe Matumbo giving assurances that the engineers were investigating the cause of the problem and have it sorted immediately. Acting KETRACO CEO Anthony Wamukota urged Kenyans to give engineers who deal with mechanical faults at the Kiambere Embakasi Central Station time to repair the damages. Here is some of the statements from KPLC engineers.
On this line, we have 4 towers that collapsed, and that is what caused the interruption that we have experienced. We are working towards restoring supplies very quickly.
When one area is affected, it also triggers the blackout on the other areas. But our engineers are working around the clock.
Once our experts have done their investigations, they will come up with a report to inform all of us what would have caused the collapse.
Kenya Power has been on the spot lately over inefficiency that saw President Uhuru Kenyatta form a task force to look into the operations at the company. Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria now says he will embark on counselling politicians against hate speech and incitement amidst rising cases in the country. The legislator, who took to social media to state that arraigning politicians on hate speech allegations will not solve the underlying problem, instead suggesting guidance through behavioural change. Kuria, while citing incidences in the past where he was a victim of hate speech charges himself, stated that the sure way of getting rid of the behaviour is personal development. These as Meru Senator Muthui was yesterday released on a 5 million shillings bond or a cash bail of 2 million shillings. Kitutu Chache South MP Richard Onyonka was arrested in Kisii and grilled by officers over hate speech claims, and the DPP directed the IG to investigate utterances by Kerio Senator Arun Cheriot. The Political Parties Act Amendment Bill 2021 is now before the Senate after weeks of intrigues in the National Assembly. Senators, while expressing reservations over the violent debate witnessed in the National Assembly, hope to engage on the merits and demerits of the proposed law with adequate public participation. Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka, who received the bill from his National Assembly counterpart Justin Muthui, committed it to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee chaired by Nyamira Senator Okongo Mogeni for processing amid claims of a predetermined outcome, with pro-handshake senators whipped to pass the proposed law without any changes. The Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga will this weekend launch his presidential campaigns in Thika as he embarks on this year's campaign trail with 8 months to go to the election. Odinga, who met a group of youth from Kiambu County, said the Thika meeting will bring on board other counties from the central Kenya region before a rollout of the campaign to other regions. Odinga's first rally for his 2022 presidential bid, that is to be held in President Uhuru Kenyatta's home turf of Kiambu County, has been termed as symbolic by his campaign handlers as he maintains he is pushed for support in the Mount Kenya region. The National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui has dismissed claims of teaming up with the One Kenya Alliance in the run-up to the August 9th, 2022 presidential race. Muthui, who has declared interest in succeeding President Uhuru Kenyatta on a Democratic Party ticket, said such a coalition deal can only be ratified by the party's National Delegates Conference that is scheduled to meet at the end of this month.
The Democratic Party has always worked with other like-minded parties in the past, and this time around cannot be an exception. And therefore, we as a party are open to working with other like-minded, and this is important, like-minded parties or leaders who desire the very best for this country and who also would ascribe to some of the founding principles of this party.
The Ministry of Health suspended 2 accredited COVID-19 testing labs after it emerged that a majority of doctored results came from them. An investigation by the ministry that sought to restore the country's image internationally has seen government resorting to taking up testing of passengers seeking to depart from the country. Fake COVID-19 certificates were cited as one of the reasons that Dubai banned all inbound and transit passenger flights from Kenya. It has been weeks of investigations into a racket where some Ministry of Health officials and private labs colluded with travelers to issue fake COVID-19 results to aid travel to Dubai. The suspension by the Dubai Civil Aviation Authority is alleged to have been necessitated by a large number of passengers from Kenya with negative COVID-19 certificates but testing positive in Dubai. The Kenya Civil Aviation Authority boss Gilbert Kibe has been quoted saying that in just a single day, Dubai could detect up to 20 false COVID-19 negative tests from Kenya. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The sun's out and traffic hour has started quite early this morning. A lot of traffic in industrial area. That entire circuit of Lunga Lunga to Lusaka and Likoni this morning, and also contributing from Jogo Road. Doesn't look too pretty, but it's starting to build up. Langata Road also, where there was nothing half an hour ago, is now completely packed. And we're looking at it snaking along all the way to the roundabout. Feeding off then to Raila Odinga Way, and we're going to see some traffic at the drift just before the City Mortuary roundabout. So that's a thing right now. The Southern Bypass, however, in and outbound is looking pretty good. Use that as an option to get a longer route into the city. All right, on Hulu Highway, as you get towards going towards Westlands, that is chock-a-blocks, and we're looking at bumper to bumper. Juja Road, that started early and it continues with traffic. And then boom, the Thika Superhighway, in case you thought she was not awake this morning, it absolutely is. And there's traffic all the way to the Outer Ring Junction. Kiambu Road also is a thing this morning. Limuru Road, in and outbound, traffic. We're looking at Westlands. Ring Road Westlands, which was an escape route for many folks, is jam-packed this morning. You're going to want to use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of Westlands and then back in the other direction. So everywhere you look, traffic has built up considerably. Let's talk, and hopefully we can avoid any sticky situations. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
A very good morning to you. It's coming up to 9 minutes after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM. We broadcast around the country. Nairobi, 94.4, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu. Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 Eldoret, Nyeri, 90.9 and Malindi, 97.7. We're also live streaming the show online, SpiceFM KE on YouTube and Facebook, and our website www.spicefm.co.ke. We begin every hour with the day's proverb.
Kupenda sio kitu. Kupendwa ni kitu. Lakini kupenda na kupendwa ni kila kitu.
English.
To love is not really anything. To be loved is something. However, to love and to be loved, now that's everything. Yes.
Lovely. Do you love that one?
Sorry? Yes, indeed.
She was transported there.
Yes, she was. Huh?
She took a brief journey.
She's counting her blessings.
Yes.
I have everything.
In fact, given the stare into space, I think she was on an intergalactic journey.
She was right there. She's, I have everything.
Well done, brother Druid and Soothsayer. You're doing very well this morning. I
To
congratulate
love
you.
and to be loved, Ndu, is everything.
You're speaking from experience, Abi?
Yes.
Okay.
Just looking at what you were, how your reaction was.
Man, the transportation.
Why are people lying to people? It's not good.
Okay. Let's introduce our guest. Our guest this morning is from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. He's Paul Samoe. He's a senior manager with the KNBS. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is the one that does the census. Right? They're the ones who come and count us. Uko na boat ngapi kwa hii flat? Uko na ng'ombe?
Boat.
Uko na umbwa ngapi?
Uko na umbwa ngapi?
Paka ngapi?
Nyinyi ni wangapi? Uko na bibi ngapi? And then the wife is looking at you like...
nataka kujua.
Paul, welcome to the Situation Room. It's good to have you.
Okay.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. I've just done, the introduction that people know. The people who come every 10 years to conduct a census. And we've talked about this many times even on this show. The awareness created ahead of the last census was absolutely spot on. In fact, you even saw the videos on social media with children saying, "Huyu ni mtu wa census." That shows that there was awareness up to the level where children know that there is something called a census, which is a good thing. And well done to you and your team. Now, what else does KNBS do?
We do a lot of things. We measure statistics in various areas. We do poverty numbers. We do CPI. We do labor.
What is CPI?
Consumer Price Index. We do the poverty that I've mentioned. And all spheres of statistics, transport, everything. So it's not only census.
Okay.
But we always produce also economic survey every year, which is a very popular report stating the status of economy in the country.
Who's the consumer of your data?
Everybody in Kenya. Yeah. Yes.
So can I walk to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and say that I'm looking for information on 1, 2, 3, and then that comes to me? Or is it that it is provided for government use? Or can anybody then just walk in and say, can you provide me with information on such?
The data that we collect is meant for public. So anybody can walk into Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and request any kind of data. Yeah.
But in this modern day and age, these people like my sister who want to walk in physically, there's an easier way of getting that information. All this information that we speak of is actually available online. I am saying this because I'm actually a great
You're a consumer.
I'm a serious consumer of what Kenya National... In fact, me, I'm a fan. The things you find in their website, the information you get is mind-boggling. You read it and you say, you mean this is available here? But I like Ndu's approach because we are literal people and we want to feel you walk. Yes, you walk into that website and you will be shocked. You ask a question, they'll give you a response. And what I have found particularly interesting, the details, my goodness. The details of what you are given.
Right.
Oh, it's something to behold. As you can see, I am a fan.
Kabisa.
Yeah,
Paul,
I can see you're a fan.
You're established by an act of parliament, or is by law.
Yes.
Right? That means that the job that you do, you are mandated to do this job.
Yes.
Now, are there other state agencies that are mandated to consume your information and to act on it?
Our mandate is just to produce statistics and disseminate. The other agencies are using statistics for policy making, and others are using for other ways, for research and any other thing that they want to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm asking is, are there other institutions such as yourself within government that also collect this kind of information, such that I can go and find the policy that is being rolled out by government? The government is relying on information that not necessarily has come from KNBS, but from some other quarters. Or can we say that when the government is actually rolling out policies and programs, they are feeding information that has come from you?
Okay, what we do is we produce statistics that are used by government. But if we go to ministries, they also do produce statistics. And for example, statistics on COVID, which is being mentioned every day. Those are other statistics. But ours is we collect data, analyze, and then we disseminate. So we are the custodian mandated by government to do all these things and collect and disseminate.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's get to the heart of the matter. Yesterday there was a headline, the big headline in the nation, that was talking about poverty levels rising in the country. And it was quoting data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, data that was first released in 2020, looking at the SDGs, and it was showing that, there was a rise in terms of levels of poverty, coming up to 53% of Kenya's poverty rate at 53% compared to 36% a couple of years earlier. That was in 2018 compared to, 2013? Give us the genesis of this data. What was the information that you were gathering, and what was the report that you released?
Okay, in 2015-16, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics conducted a survey called Kenya Integrated Household Budget Survey. From this, it was an integrated survey, but what we were collecting most is consumption expenditure by households. When we collect consumption expenditure by households, at the end of the day, we intend to produce poverty numbers. And these poverty numbers are normally produced using now the monometric approach, that is monetary approach, where you ask households what they consumed in terms of food and non-food. So when we collect this information, we analyze. We disseminated a report in 2018 that gave poverty numbers for Kenya at 36.1%. Now, when you break this down, you can break down by male, female, you can break by age group and households. So what you saw yesterday, the first part, where we were saying that female are at 6.2 and male are at 6.1. These are meant information that we had disseminated in 2018. Then below it, we had numbers now by age group. 0 to 17 was 41.5. Then 18 to 35 was 29.1. All that way up to the older ones, which is 70 plus, at 39.1. That information was collated from the report that we disseminated in 2018. Then we have another report that we prepared using the same data, but now using different approach. Now, this different approach is what we call MODA. It's multiple overlapping deprivation analysis. This is whereby now you take the population and look at which other ways can we explain poverty. If you look at the SDGs, goal number 1, it's saying eradicate poverty in all its form. Now, the form number 1 is where I've talked about the monetary approach, which is 36.1. In 2018, all the way to 2020, we worked on another report that is using a different approach, which is what I've said, multiple overlapping deprivation analysis. This method look at other things, which is non-monetary.
Non-monetary.
Yes, we look at education, we look at nutrition, we look at development of a child, like standing, we look at economic. Now, we use the same data set and analyze and produce another report which we disseminated, and it was showing that Kenyans, 53% were deprived in those variables that I've mentioned. And now, this is not new data, but in a different form.
It's a different way of looking at the same 36.1%.
Yes.
That you had found were monetary poor.
Monetary poor, yes.
So those who are monetary poor, then now you look further into those who are monetary poor. Can they afford health? Do they have proper nutrition?
Yes.
Do they have access to education?
Yes.
And you found that it's actually even worse.
Yeah, using different approach, which are not comparable at this time. And again, in 2014, we've been, there's another method called MPI. The MPI is where you look at information when you don't have monetary, and then you look at what are you deprived. This is a method used by Oxford University, and this is a global MPI. And it shows that 38.9% of Kenyans are poor multidimensionally, but now using different approach. The other one is multiple overlapping, but this one is called MPI.
Okay.
This looks at education as a dimension. It looks at the welfare as a dimension, and it looks at health. So there are different variables are used in every time.
So bottom line,
yes,
when the story was saying that 53% of Kenyans were poor in 2018 as compared to 36% in 2014, they were comparing apples and oranges.
Correct.
So this was factually incorrect.
Yeah, it was incorrect.
Have the poverty levels changed between 2013 and 2020?
We expect them to have changed. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics have been doing surveys. Actually, we are doing a survey called Kenya Continuous Household Survey, which we started in 2019. This data collected 2020 and 2021. We are doing analysis, and we are yet to release the information. So this information now will show the current status when 2019 when we didn't have COVID, and 2020 when we had COVID. So you'll see the difference by when we launch the reports.
I'm interested to know what the determining factors are, because I mean poverty as a definition obviously then shows that there is lack or there's deprivation at some point. So now that and you said that there are collective factors here, right? So if in 2018 we're looking at 38.9% of Kenyans then are poor. What are they poor in certain areas, or is it a collection? How would you then determine that one individual is poor over another? Is it an inability to access something, or lack of cash in hand to be able to get certain things done or to purchase? What then determines that one individual is poor? And then you have all the molecules building up to say then, out of all of this, it becomes 38%.
Okay. If we take, for example, the MPI, which is 38.9%, we look at 3 dimensions. As I've said, health, education, and the welfare. Now you look at education, and under education we look at how, those children who are supposed to be in school, are they going to school?
Okay.
So if a household has a member of a household who is supposed to be going to school and is not going to school, we say that household is deprived.
Okay.
Okay. We look again at the number of years of schooling. For example, if you are supposed to have gone, if we cut off and say standard 8 is the cutoff, then we look at somebody who has not reached standard 8, then that person is deprived. So that is how we look at individual deprivation. And then we sum up the deprivation for every household. And that's why we are getting 38.9.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you then be able to go further on to say then, if you're looking at that 38.9%, then you would say across these three factors, then 1 in every 3 Kenyans is then deprived at that level? If we're looking at that 38.9%.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I will say, for example, this one, if I vaccinated, then I will say 4 out of 10 Kenyans are multi-dimensionally poor. Yeah.
As you look at these numbers, I mean, I understand that the position is to collate this information and then disseminate it. What is done with it thereafter really is not under your job description, right? Looking at the mandate that you have to fulfill. But as you collect this information and send it out, does it get worrying in terms of what you're seeing, in terms of the trends having changed over the last if we're looking at 2014 to 2018, and they're now saying that, well, we don't have all the data in place yet. If we then looked at the next 4 years, from 2018 until 2022, for example, the downward trend, right, in terms of quality, or the upward trend in terms of the increment, in terms of poverty, are these then worrying statistics, even if it's just collecting it?
Okay, if I'm comparing figures, for example, when I'm dealing with monometric approach, and I look at the trend, then you look at that trend, also looking at the population, how many of that. For example, if I say that 6.1% of Kenyans are poor using the monometric approach, then it is worrying when you look at the numbers vis-a-vis the total population. Yes. For example, when we produced that, it was showing that about 16 million Kenyans are poor using that approach. Yes.
And is it 16 million adults or 16 million Kenyans?
16 million Kenyans. It is per capita.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's close to 50%.
I think what really everybody is looking for is that harmonized definition of poverty.
Yes.
Because, so you have all these other methods of looking at it. But is there a singular definition of poverty and say, who is a poor person, Paul?
Okay. You see, the economists have different ways of saying this person is poor. If we look at the World Bank approach, where now we are talking about the money approach, the expenditure, the consumption per person. And this is looking at the nutrition value. When you purchase food, you clothe yourself and you go to the hospital. So this is the well-being of a person. So that is a different method. Then there is somebody called Amartya Sen who came and said, now you cannot use the money to say so-and-so is poor. So he approached it from now deprivation part, where he's looking at the human being with capability approach. I am able to function if I have education. I'm able to function if I have this type of education and that and that. So these are different ways of approach in poverty.
But all of them, bottom line, is deprivation.
Yes.
Are you likely to find somebody who is monetarily poor, but they have access to health, education, good nutrition, food security?
Yes, if you look at the book where they got the 53%, if you look at it, we have gone further to analyze and say, of those people who are 36.1%, how many of them are deprived in this, how many are deprived in that? So it is giving analysis. If you get that book, or if you go to KNBS website and look for that book, you'll see those people who are multidimensionally poor. At the same time,
don't have money.
They don't have money. Yes.
So that's a basic.
Yeah, that's a
basic. If you don't have money, then you are also likely not to have. You're likely to be deprived of then this other.
Yes.
Basic human needs.
And it's over a period of time, right? Because I think it comes into mind that definition for some people is I may not have money today, but in the next 2 or so months I might have.
Yeah.
So are you looking at this over a certain period of time, that if an individual or family unit over time constantly is in this state of being monetarily poor, no cash in hand, that's when they would then be deemed poor? But it's not a quickly changing kind of situation.
Yes, if you use the money approach, the person will be in, out, because today you have money, tomorrow you don't have money to purchase whatever you want.
Yeah.
But when you look at the asset approach, you'll find that this person might be constant because the assets are constant.
Yeah. Okay.
So the other method is a bit constant, but the money approach is fluctuates.
Okay.
Up, down, up, down.
All these, are we going to a break?
Yes, let's take a break. Let's take a break and then we can come into further conversations. 7:30, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. With us in the studio is Paul Samoei. He's a senior manager with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. We are looking at the various indices that define Kenyans as either we have or we don't have. He tells us out of 4 of every 10 Kenyans are multidimensionally poor. That is the latest statistic that they developed after some survey that was conducted and a report released in 2020. Then they'll be giving us some further details, of course, in their ongoing survey. But what is there officially is that 4 out of every 10 Kenyans are multidimensionally poor. You have lack of access to food, lack of access to nutrition, lack of access to health, or one or all of these, and also lack of access to money. This conversation continues shortly after we take a break and take a look at the weather and traffic. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of? Has anybody been
I will not listen.
Bit of advice, because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Spice FM, Malindi.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 15, highs of 25 and lows of 15, and it's cloudy at 12 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 11. At 9 degrees, Nyeri is sunny this morning. It'll go to highs of 25. 25 will also be the high in Eldoret, where it is currently sunny at 12. Mostly sunny conditions at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 32 today, and we'll also see highs of 31 in Malindi. It's pretty sunny now at 26. That'll be today's low as well. It's mostly sunny in Kisumu at 20, highs of 33 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega, it's sunny at 20, highs of 33 and lows of 15. We're looking at sunny conditions in Kampala at 20, highs of 30 and lows of 17. It's raining in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 27. Cloudy conditions at 15 in Johannesburg, highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's clear skies in Lagos at 26, highs of 33 and lows of 25. Recording heavy thunderstorms across the Congo Basin, putting Kinshasa at 23. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 23.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Langata Road continues to thump with traffic this morning and heading out towards Rilo Dingo, pockets of traffic as you're getting towards Gong Road at the City Mortuary roundabout, feeding off then towards Community. Everybody joining then with Uhuru Highway as you get into the CBD this morning. That's quite tight. Lusaka, Likoni, Lunga Lunga, as well as Jogo Road moving slowly this morning. Outer Ring not too bad, but you'll snake along as you go ahead. The Eastern Bypass also just at the AP Training College is where we see some traffic, but nothing too painful. Where it is painful is on the Thika Superhighway, and it's moving quite slowly this morning, as is Kiambu Road and Limuru Road. Coming out of Westlands again, use the Red Hill Link Road to get away from the drama that is Waiyaki Way this morning. And we know we're not looking for drama on this Wednesday. Let's talk, guys, on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
It
right.
continues at
94.4.
This is the Situation Room on Spice FM. Our guest this morning is Paul Samoei, Senior Manager, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
You know, whenever we talk about the methods that we use, these are universal methods that have been tested, proved, tried. But, there's always a but. How sensitive and specific are they to our situation here? I'll give you an example of what I mean. For the longest time, the World Bank had a definition of what we call the Juakali sector. They call it the hidden economy. Meaning, there's this thing that these people seem to do, but the units of measure that they use to understand poverty and development, this sector didn't quite fit into their standard of measure. Now, if we look at the model that we are using to determine some of the things that we are saying, how close to our reality or how close to representing our reality do these methods?
Okay. If we look at the methods that we are using, actually, if the simplest to understand is the manometric approach, we're looking at how much can you purchase whatever you want. For example, on food, that the example I've given.
How much you can purchase or how much you're able to purchase?
How much you're able to purchase. Okay. Yes. So, based on this approach, we come up with what we call the poverty line. This is where we say this is a threshold, where if a Kenyan cannot have certain amount in Kenya shillings, is deemed to be poor. So, for example, in 2015-16, our poverty line, for example, in rural areas, was 3,252
a month.
So, per month. If a household cannot afford that per month, then it was deemed to be poor.
What?
Now,
Okay, sorry.
so if you go to urban, for example, the urban now, the poverty line for urban is different. If a household cannot have 5,995 Kenya shillings per month,
That is
it
6,000.
was deemed to be poor. So there is a threshold. So this methodology is an easy to understand. Yes.
So again, the rural is 3,000?
Rural is 3,252.
So if a household
in
rural Kenya cannot afford to spend 3,252 a month.
Yeah.
And this is whatever they want to do.
Whatever they want to do. Per adult equivalent, sorry. So you have to add per adult equivalent.
Okay. The adults in the household.
The adults in the household.
If they are not able to basically spend 3,200 in a month.
In a month, yes.
Then they are below the poverty line.
Yes.
And 6,000 if you're in urban areas.
Yes.
I love Sita. I see where the love Sita is coming from.
Yes, you have seen.
I love Sita. Ndu, you wanted to ask a question?
Right. So, I mean, I was just looking at the details of what this money is being spent on, because, and if you're saying that on whatever it is that you want, so we're saying that is this then extra when your needs have been met? Or are we saying, for example, this 3,252 in the rural area and this 5,995 is on basic needs plus everything else? Or have your basic needs been spent on, and then you should then have this extra to then be able to do what you want? Because have children gone to school? Have you bought food for the month? Have you paid for your housing? Have you paid for your transport? And then you have this money left over to then engage in luxury? Or are we saying that all your needs, you should have this 6,000 bob to be able to spend on? Or is it extra?
Okay. When I say 3,252 in rural areas, I meant this is the amount that you can use to purchase food and other non-food items. Okay? And
including housing,
including
clothes,
everything, yes.
Education,
yes,
healthcare.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we do first is we do what we call food poverty line. The basic thing when you get money, what do you buy? You buy food for yourself.
Yeah.
So when you buy food, we have the poverty line for food, and we call it food poverty line. And for this case, for 2015-16, we had it at 1,954.
For food.
For food.
Okay.
That is for rural.
Yes.
So if you are in the rural areas and you are one person, that's the much you need for your food.
Okay.
But if you are 4, then you have to multiply that figure by 4.
So if you're able to spend 1954 per individual on food in the rural area, then you're not poor.
You're not poor.
Okay.
So if you have 4 individuals, then you multiply that amount by 4.
Yes.
But there's a small conundrum here with the way Kenyans live. The assumption is that when people eat, they buy all that food. In towns such as Nairobi, that is not entirely true. Because there are very many people who actually get their food directly from the sources, through their relatives, through their farms, through whatever. Now, I am certain that you people have captured this. But of interest is this. What people spend money on, if it's in the urban area, is housing, an element of security, light, things to do with that. And they also spend it on non-agricultural consumables like soap and what have you and what have you. But then again, if I know how Kenyans are, there is what you buy off the shelf in supermarkets. But there are very many industries under the radar where this same soap is produced, this same detergent is produced. You won't find it in the shelf, but it is sold. You talk about liquid soap, it is produced. You talk about maize meal. There's somebody who has a mill somewhere in Kibra, Mukuru kwa Njenga. So all you need to do is have maize, and you take it, and it's ground for you.
But bottom line, CT, is in the person spending money to acquire all these things.
The point that
whether you're buying food from a shop, a supermarket, or a maize meal, or you're importing food from up country, you're spending money to get the food.
Somebody is spending money, and where I'm going with this is that this complexity and diversity, this is a question I want to ask, is it captured when you come up with a clear understanding and saying these are the poverty lines, below this, above this, are all these factors considered? That's really what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I like your question. Actually, when we are collecting information, we ask first, did you purchase?
Okay.
So the first one is consumption from purchases. The second one is consumption from own production. I'm a farmer, I consume from my own farm.
Right.
So that is consumption from that. Then there's consumption from stock. You had some stock that remained, and you are consuming from that stock.
Okay.
And lastly, you can consume from gifts. The one now you're saying, there is somebody who sent food from up country and you consume. So at the end of the day, we aggregate all this, and then we then value it. So we value it based on what was purchased. If it is ugali, the unga that we have talked about, you got it from up country as a gift, or you consume it from your own production. Then how much did you consume? Then we have this price per kilogram, and we're asking you, what did you consume in the last 7 days? That is valued. Everything is valued in that complexity. Yes.
Okay, which takes me now to my next question. When we collect the data, how do we determine the sampling? How do we determine who we are going to talk to? Again, methodology comes in. Is it random? Is it purposive? Is it... And then the sample size, in all the things that we're looking at. How do we determine... Okay, there's a way of determining what's an adequate sample size. But again, these complexities that often involve you involve yourself when you go into research. How do we arrive at this?
Okay, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics have a frame where we have all the members, all the households in Kenya from census.
Mm-hmm.
So from this we create a frame, and a frame is whereby we have what we call clusters. A village, for example, I can call it, when you create it where you have all the members in that place, that village, we'll call it a cluster. Mm-hmm. So the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has that frame that we'll go and sample from. Now, for us to start working is at what level do you want to aggregate your data? Mm-hmm. If I want to aggregate my data at the county level, then I have to go to those clusters. How many clusters do I need, or how many households do I need from Nairobi County? If I need 5,000 households, for example, from Nairobi, then I have to sample from all that. And the sampling here is a multi-stage, where we go to the cluster, from the cluster we go to the household, from the household we get the individuals. So it is always scientific. You have to go through all that methodology to get what you want. We are not using purposive. Yeah.
When you now get to the point where you're finding out, all right, so these are the figures that we're finding of people who are then below the poverty line. Do you go further to find out what has driven them to the situation that they're facing? Could be government policy, it could be climatic conditions, force majeure, COVID, it could be health, declining health, it could be loss of the breadwinner in a household. Do you go further to find out whether what is contributing to the growing levels of poverty or the reducing levels of poverty?
Yes, we are supposed to be going above. After we have disseminated the information, we are supposed to do what we call further analysis to look at the determinants of poverty. Mm-hmm. What determines this poverty in this given county? So we are supposed to do a further analysis on that. But what we normally do first is disseminate the information so that the government can use it to make policy.
So from what you had done previously, maybe the 2013, the 2016, or maybe the 2018, what did you find as the main determinants of poverty?
Okay, we've not gone further to look at the main determinants of poverty, but we normally give out, the other researchers can look at it. Mm-hmm. So from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, we normally don't go beyond. But these other approaches that was developed by Amartya Sen, the one now we are calling the multiple overlapping deprivation, you can look further and say what contributed to 53%. Mm. So you can look at education, you can look at sanitation, you can look at all that, health. So that can be like determinant. But actually you are supposed to produce a report on determinants of poverty when we do the analysis. Yeah.
I'm asking this because there was a question yesterday from Julia Kagituju, who's continuing with the same question today. Yesterday she said, she was asking, when did they kill the market liberalization for milk? Why did the tea bonus shrink to 26 bob? My 90-year-old mom asked me, and I told her, I'm not aware, I don't know. And she says, now these factors have driven her mother to below the poverty line. She does everything to help her lot, but things not in her control just will not bother to bulge, hence the poverty.
So
there are other factors here. For example, she's looking at the mother is a dairy farmer, and now she does not have free access to the market, according to her. Then she is also a tea farmer. Now the prices of tea and the income from tea has dwindled. All these things have now led Julia's mother to where she says 90-year-old mom below the poverty line.
Yeah, that's what I said. Now we need to go further and look at determinants of poverty in that way, looking at this particular household that is poor, what caused poverty, so which we have not done. So I cannot clearly say that what happened to Julia's mother. Is it because of lack of access to the market or what? So that further analysis, we have not done it.
So this is now done by others, say Ministry of Planning.
Mostly is done by researchers at the university.
And Kipra?
And Kipra, yes.
Okay. Kip Korir says, things are really, really bad in the ground. I have worked in Mombasa for 7 years now, but what I see is indeed a different hard situation for everyone. We're in a difficult situation under brutal leadership. Now, I'm not asking you to comment on the brutal leadership. It's about, does it reflect in your data about the situation where, as people are responding to your questions, do you sense the frustration, the anger out of the, when they're answering this and saying, you're asking me where I bought, I did not buy. I was depending on well-wishers for a long time, and there's that pain. Are you able to actually filter sentiment?
No, ours is just to give you the measurement.
These are quantitative people,
yes.
my friend.
Yeah. So
yes, you ask a qualitative question, and then that one, as you correctly put it, there are other people who deal with those things. But Eric, if you consider, for instance, just the measure that our brother here is talking about, when you look at the sources from where people derive their income, it usually provides you with a direction and a clear indication of what will happen to people who derive an income from that particular sector if something goes wrong with the sector. For instance, if, say, we have a dry season and people who are tea farmers and who depend on a lot of rainfall don't have it, that entire sector will be affected. So livelihoods will automatically be affected. I know this because I live in a sugar growing area. And I have seen what it is, the vagaries of pricing and the vagaries of just the process of payment has done to the sugarcane farmer. A once upon a time prosperous person. Now, you actually wonder whether you should actually use your sugarcane for fuel. I mean, literally, rather than selling it, because it takes 2 years for it to mature. And then it takes you another 2 years to get paid. It beats any form of logic. So if you are a sugarcane farmer, just those vagaries in that sector would render you poor. Because that's what you depended on.
And is that the situation on the ground?
Yes. Why do you think it is that when the world market and the production of coffee, things changed? Sri Lanka was at war for a long time, isn't it? Just civil war. And they're a tea-producing country. So what it meant was what they could export from the world market was much reduced. So we did very well with our tea. Then they stopped fighting. They produced tea.
And they went a bit further. They also did value addition to their tea.
Which we have not done and we keep talking about. So the tea farmer is going to have a problem.
Bona Samoy, I must ask then, I know that you are mandated to collect this information and this data, but what is the end goal? Because this data, for me, as in information is given, thereupon decisions are made. Thereupon policy is set in motion. There you can now go back on a previously made decision based on new information or data that has come to you. So in as much as, we can go ahead and collect the information because we're mandated to do so, is there an intended goal? Not just because we're asked to, but to say, look, these are the trends. Can we push out this information so that hopefully policy can change. Like CT is saying now, for example, you've seen that tea prices are dropping globally, or you're seeing that they're increasing globally because there's value addition in a particular area. So can we collect information that is needed here in Kenya, and can we do something about it policy-wise? Is there an advisory role also here that is played for government, for policymakers, for private sector to say, look, guys, this is what we are seeing. Can we make some change? The poverty that we could be seeing in 2021, 2022, even though you may not have the data for it right now, is clearly different because it has been affected by a global pandemic, for example. Now, as you see things like that happening, do you ever play an advisory role to some of these stakeholders, to some of these policymakers, to government, and say, look, guys, the numbers are not looking very good. Is there something we can do to divert a tragedy? Is there something we can do to maybe put more of this money in the hands of Kenyans? Does this ever happen? Because the information, or there should be data-driven decision-making at any government level.
Thank you. When we started, Eric said that we have a mandate. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics mandate is to collect, analyze, and produce the information. Okay? And we store the data. The other government agencies that are supposed to be working now on the policy.
Okay.
One of them is KIPRA. The rest are the ministries.
Yes.
So they themselves are supposed to pick the information and go further and see how that one is affecting policy, and then they can advise the government on policy issues. So us is just to collect, give you the situation. This is the situation. Another government agency act now to look at the policy. Yeah.
Are there instances where other government agencies have actually questioned your data or your methodology and told you, what you're producing here, you guys, is different from what we are feeling on the ground?
Of course, people will ask the methodology. Like he has asked us about the methodology. How did you arrive to this? So always there are questions on methodology. And whenever we sit down with that person and take that person through the methodology, and he understands the methodology, then we are okay. So that one is there. Always, you can come and say, how did you arrive at these figures? We'll show you the methodology, and we agree. Yes.
You know what I found of interest in what you said? There is not only undeniable but irrefutable platform from which whatever Kenya National Bureau of Statistics does emanates from. It's called a census. Because census counts everybody in the country. And if you look at, as you were talking, I was thinking of the questions that they ask, some a bit invasive, but they actually have the information.
It's actually called a what demographic survey?
There is
that census, the one.
The census we did was the Kenya Population and Housing Census.
Kenya Population and Housing Census.
Yes.
So when I think of the questions that they were asking, they were data mining at a very, very high level.
Yep.
It's just that it doesn't hit you. When he said it didn't hit me, and I said, but they already have this information. It's a question of just collating it. And then if you're talking about the people who are born and people who also die, that information is also available.
Yes.
So it isn't difficult to figure out, because when they ask you, so your income, what do you do? You already told them. So it can be aggregated as to, we have X number of people who do this in the country, X number who do this. So if there's a problem in that particular sector, it's not difficult to sort of like drive and say, if this is what's happening here, you can just walk along that road, and at the end of it, you'll realize this is where we've arrived at.
Yeah.
Yes. But you don't talk enough about what you do and how you do it.
Maybe that is the part we need to work on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely. I think you actually do. You didn't ask the question about the middle.
I was waiting. I'm going to ask him. Yes, there's this.
Time is done.
No, I'm going to ask it anyway in 10 seconds.
Yes.
This middle class in Kenya, is it a reality or is it fiction?
The middle class.
This group we keep calling middle class. And you guys have categorized the income this person must have to fall into the category of the middle class. It is you who have given us those figures.
Okay.
The short answer to it in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds. Of course, we have those people at the higher, then the middle, and those people who are below the poverty. This middle class are the people when everything changes, they will always fall into poverty.
Is that not a more definitive definition?
Kubisa. So, Paul, in the last 20 years, has the middle class in Kenya grown?
Yeah.
And is it still growing?
It's still growing.
Okay. So we have a growing middle class.
We have people
The potential
who
to fall
just
into
require
poverty.
one little
change
twist.
to
Of
fall
course.
into
Poverty.
But today where they are, they're middle class.
Okay.
But I would like to make one thing, is that the figures that are in the fact sheet are not new figures. It's just that somebody went and did some collection, put them in a simplicity way of understanding.
So they may appear
they
new.
They are not new data sets, but they were packaged
afresh
to produce that fact sheet.
Okay.
And number two, the figures that were saying Kenyans are 50-something million, no. And why are they getting it from the World Bank? We are the custodian of data, and if they want projection,
we
go
know.
to Kenya.
We know
Kenya
who we
National
are.
Bureau of Statistics.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Paul Samoei is a senior manager with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Keep it here for more conversations. It's 8 a.m.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Chief Justice Martha Collins implored magistrate graduates to smarten up their service delivery to give a new shape to the judicial system. Speaking during the swearing-in of resident magistrates at the Kenya Judiciary Academy, CJ Koome announced that the Judicial Service Commission was set to embark on ensuring it meets its vision of the social transformation through access to justice by reshaping its operations. In the side mandate, CJ Koome called on the newly graduated magistrates to enhance their judicial performance to ensure that the problem of the log of cases is eliminated from the judiciary. Now, a fresh bandit attack in Lamu County has left one person injured and several houses torched despite an ongoing high-level multi-agency operation in the coastal town's mainland. The attackers, who struck for the fifth time in less than a month, are reported to have even slaughtered animals belonging to the villagers before making way with the meat. Residents from Mashagoni Kibaoni village, which is just a few kilometers away from Mokwe, are also counting their losses following a similar incident that saw bandits raze houses to the ground before skinning 2 goats and slaughtering chicken. They then proceeded to leave the animals' bowels behind. About 10 schools have been closed in Baringo County following incidents of insecurity in Kerio Valley. To date, a total of 60 people have been killed by cattle rustlers. Academic activities have been suspended, with teachers, parents and students fearing for their safety as cattle rustlers continue to carry out raids. Residents have been forced to relocate as they call on the government to intervene and send more police reservists to help address the issue. This as Kenyan National Union of Teachers has urged its members to leave the area due to insecurity. Joseph Cheptarus is the NAT Secretary General, Baringo Branch.
I want to ask the teachers, and I've repeatedly said this, if your life is in danger, please run for your life immediately.
The Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga has promised a basket of goodies for the youth if he is elected president in the upcoming 2022 August elections. Addressing a delegation of youth from Mount Kenya at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Foundation in Nairobi, Odinga promised that his administration would create a conducive environment for creating of jobs and wealth for the youth. Odinga promised to develop manufacturing industries in various sectors which would in turn create jobs for Kenyans. Now, 3 men have been arrested in Nairobi Nairobi on suspicion of kidnapping a 23-year-old man and holding him hostage while demanding a 300,000 shillings ransom. The trio, Dixon Mwendwa, Robert Kioko and Philip Kilonzi, were nabbed by Githurai-based detectives in a single room where they were holding the victim. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation said the victim had travelled from Mwingi East to Githurai to visit a couple that also hails from his rural area, only to arrive and find the woman of the house alone. The suspects are then said to have frisked the victim and taken 5,000 shillings before hurling him into an empty room. Now, the current COVID-19 vaccines may need to be updated to ensure their continued effectiveness against Omicron and future variants. This is according to an expert group appointed by the World Health Organization. The opinion is contained in an interim statement from the WHO Technical Advisory Group on COVID-19 vaccine composition, which was established last September. Amid increased Omicron circulation, members have called for urgent and broad access to current vaccines globally, both for protection and to mitigate the emergence of new variants of concerns or VOCs. The 18 experts are developing a framework to analyze the evidence on emerging VOCs in the context of criteria that will trigger a recommendation to change COVID-19 vaccine strain composition and will advise WHO on updated vaccine composition as required. Now, the global economy faces a grim outlook. This is according to World Bank President David Malpass, as the aftershocks of the pandemic continue to weigh on growth, especially in poor countries. His organization's latest report predicts global growth will slow to 4.1% this year from 5.5% in 2021. It attributed the slowdown to virus threats, government aid unwinding, and an initial rebound in demand fading. But Malpass said his greatest worry was widening global inequality. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so what is it looking like in most parts of the city this morning? Quite a lot of traffic in that whole industrial area. Jogo Road is heavy as you're coming from the Makadar train station out towards the roundabout at the City Stadium. So that's the thing to contend with. And this is inbound traffic. We're looking at inbound traffic also on Langata Road and Raila Odinga Way. It's doing its thing as you're trying to then connect with Ngong Road this morning. So that looks pretty messy. We're looking at spots of traffic on Uhuru Highway trying to get into the city well out towards Westlands, guys. Doesn't look too pretty. Use your bypasses, they'll save you. And we're talking about Southern looking good right now. Thika Superhighway, absolute mess. Where else is there a mess? On the Kiambu Road, well past the DCI headquarters this morning. Limuru Road, in and outbound traffic. We're looking at Westlands and that whole area. Use the Red Hill Link Road, it'll take you out. So, what else? Mombasa Road also. There's a long line of vehicles waiting to get into and out of the weighbridge. That is causing what you're seeing this morning. Let's take it all in stride, shall we? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, newshound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is
it's
the
8
Situation
minutes after 8 on the 12th day of January 2022. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation if you're just joining us on Spice FM online or on KTN Home, where we'll be broadcasting for the next 1 hour. We begin every hour with the day's lovely proverb.
Kupenda sio kitu. Kupendwa ni kitu. Lakini kupenda na kupendwa ni kila kitu.
In English, as always.
Yes. To love is not really anything. To be loved is most definitely something. But to love and to be loved, man, now that is everything.
Kila kitu.
Kila kitu.
Somebody Ndu had another translation of this proverb on I think on Facebook on the mentions. So they're saying there's another way. Julia, actually, another angle to today's proverb. People grow when they are loved well. If you want to help others heal, love them without an agenda.
Hey, she's put it beautifully. She's put it beautifully.
Huh?
Yes, she's put it beautifully.
I don't get it.
Okay, iko namna hii. Kama wewe iko na plant ama maua, and you water it adequately, that is loving care. It will grow. You move it from the shade, put it in the sunlight, okay? And if you're that way inclined, play a little classical music for it. It will grow beautifully. That's loving, tender care. Hey, Julia has a point.
But the flower doesn't love you back. To love and to be loved is everything.
Eric, you know you're giving us a bad name here.
No, you don't just accept everything because someone says, "Oh yes, that's true." I don't get it. Ambassador Koki Muli is our guest this hour. Ambassador Koki Muli is a governance, democracy and elections expert. She also lectures at the Southeastern Kenya University. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Good to have you on the show again. Happy New Year. You know, we say Happy New Year until June.
That's true. Or if you don't see each other until the end of the year, it's still
Happy New Year. Yes.
So long as you're happy.
Exactly. It's the first time you're seeing the person in the year.
True.
You're well and healthy.
Yes, I am. I thank God.
For that, we're always grateful.
Crossed over the year well.
Yes.
Amid COVID and everything else.
Yes.
But everything went well, so we are grateful for that.
Indeed. The last time you were here, we talked a lot about, governance, about you being a political disruptor and your journey in the issues of governance in the country, your journey into looking at how we elect our leaders, how we hold our leaders accountable. We are in an election year, and there's all this talk and campaigns and hate speech and preparation for registration. And the IEBC is saying it's always open to registration between an election and a couple of days into the next election, but they usually have these enhanced voter registration exercises. One is about to roll out. The second phase of the enhanced continuous voter registration exercise rolls out again from next week, Monday, the 7th of January, up to the 6th of February. The last time they were doing this, they were targeting to register at least some 6 million new voters. And this is looking at the number of young Kenyans who have gotten to the age of 18, who then therefore are in the captive market. They did not get that number in the last exercise, but they're hoping that with this second exercise, they can achieve it. When we discussed the exercise at the point, we looked at various factors that were at play. One was access to information. Another one was access to IDs, because that's a prerequisite for registering as a voter. Do you feel that any of those things have changed as we get into the second phase?
Thank you very much, Eric, and nice to see all of you again. Muga Ndu.
You did beautifully, Ambassador.
Yes.
You should be given a medal just for that.
I'm yearning for it. Anyhow, your question is very important, and it relates to the preparedness of the next phase of the national massive campaign on registration by IEBC. I want, you are in the media, so you should know whether we are ready and prepared. I have been in Kwavonza.
You've been on the ground. That's why
doing
we're asking
my
you.
business in at Southeastern Kenya University. So I must say that I'm not certain whether to answer your question in the affirmative or not, because I actually didn't know myself. Didn't know that we are about to begin the next phase. When is it supposed to start?
Monday.
And if I don't know,
Your students know?
I call myself someone who is knowledgeable in this,
informed Kenyan.
an
Yes.
informed Kenyan, then I think we do have a problem, don't we?
Indeed.
And so one of the factors you raised earlier to say that when we discussed this prior to the previous registration campaign, we looked at some of the reasons why we don't hit the target that we want. And one of them is access to information, also awareness. Did we do any campaign? Did we prepare this? Who else is involved? And, I say the business of registration of voters should involve all the stakeholders. The stakeholders include the potential voters themselves. They need to be aware. They need to be informed where they will go to register as voters, what they need for that. And you can't stick that to your website and expect people to go looking for information. If you want people to register as voters, you go out and get them yourself. You don't wait for them to come for you. And a lot of people, young people and everybody else is really busy with life and doing other stuff. So if we want to engage them, you actually engage them actively in order to, to get them to come to you. The other thing is that I told you this before, we had this discussion before, that if the qualification for a person to register is a national identity card or a valid passport, the first thing you need to do, if I was the one, is to seek out those people who do those registration to see how many they have registered between the last general voter registration campaign and the one that I'm about to start. And if I to determine how many people have sought and got ID cards and where they are, because getting the demographics and where they are, it is very easy to determine. And then sort of to reach out to those people where they are, reach out to them, and then get ready for the registration. Because you don't just, even when you are going to sell, cassava in the market, you don't just carry your cassava and go to any market. You have to know that this is where I am likely to sell the most of my cassava before you go. And therefore, you also need to know the cassava consumers when they are coming to the market. Is it on Mondays or on Thursdays like we do in Kalundu market, Uko Kitui? Or is it, Tuesday, whichever date? So that when you go, you have higher probability of selling cassava.
Capturing.
Exactly.
5 days ago, IEBC tweeted that they held a meeting with the National Registration Bureau. And they've even posted some photos in a very dark room here with officials from the National Registration Bureau, where
That's
they say
fantastic.
they were discussing the progress that the National Registration Bureau has made in registering people.
That's
for
great.
IDs.
If they did that, then they know where they are going to get those
That was
voters.
5 days ago. So they know, okay, so you guys have done this. But continuously, have they been having an engagement? That would be the question, with the National Registration Bureau, with the ministry in charge, and this is Interior, for instance,
with civil society organizations that do this kind of voter education
to ensure that you're capturing the people at their right places. Have we seen ID registration campaigns in universities? For example, at your university, you have very many young people who just left high school and they've joined university. Do they have IDs?
Well,
you could say they do.
They do. It's a requirement. You have to have a national identity card.
Because also they have to access the
There are a number of things that you require it for.
Yeah. So you have university students are already registered. Now they need to know I mean,
they are already having ID
They have
cards.
IDs. They need to know about the voter registration exercise.
And they need to be engaged. You know, active engagement of people is like when you invite me here to talk about these issues, you go out of your way to engage me on something that triggers useful information that I can share with you. And before I come here, you reach out and I know that, well, that I am coming here and what we are going to discuss and so on. And so by the time I arrive, it is clear in my mind what we are discussing. Why do you expect then that you will just go out there, pitch a tent, and people just stroll into your tent and say, here I am, register me? You know, let me tell you, in 2006, when I was executive director of the Institute for Education in Democracy, we had a serious problem of apathy, voter apathy, and young people are not registering. In fact, as you recall, in the 90s, I've been in this business of election for over 30 years now. But in the 90s, we had no young people coming out to vote because really elections, ilikuwa ni kazi ya wazee na watu wengi, kina mama. And therefore, we started thinking, how do we involve the youth in the electoral processes? And so, Kevin Obanjo, the late Kevin Obanjo of True Black Entertainment, and came to see me when I was at IED and said, I have an idea, because we had been issuing press statements on how do we get voters to be registered. So we started having this chat about how do we actually excite voters. Thankfully, I was in the US in 1992 during the Rock Your Vote campaign. You remember when Clinton was vying for the first time, he used to go with his saxophone everywhere. And then to excite African Americans and other minorities to register as voters, rock stars went out and started this campaign of Rock Your Vote campaign. So we started talking about this with Kevin. And then his friends, Ridiculous Limited, you remember them?
Yep.
KJ, Nyambane, and Tony. We got together in 2006 and decided to have something almost close to that. And that's what we started calling Vijana Tugutuke Anytime Yako campaign. And we reached out, and it was amazing because all these artists, comedians, musicians, dancers, and performers, those are the days of Kenana, Jua Kali, Nameless, all those people. They actually volunteered their services. The only thing we had to do was I was in charge of raising funds and resources, and the rest were in charge of mobilizing. And we used to go to different parts of Kenya, camp there 3 days in advance, worked very closely with ECK and the registrar, but the ECK worked with its own counterparts in government. And what happened is that we would camp tent at Marsabit, for example, was one of the towns. We went to 14 towns in all over Kenya, to the farthest. And we pitched tent for 3 days prior to a big concert. And we had road shows in the entire town and the environs. And we had this merchandise, bandanas, whatever. And we would reach out and say, we are going to have this concert, these are the musicians. And the media was working very closely with us. And in fact, Standard Media Group had a lot of people who still work here and accompanied us in all the shows. And what they did was they sent these messages, and we would have the ECK camp there 3 days in advance. We go around getting young people to the stadium. They would register as voters, those who had ID cards. And before we went there, like months in advance, we would say, you better register as you better get your ID, because that's the only entry you will require to see so and so, Esther Wahome, to see all these people.
Yeah.
So get ready. And when people had Prezo was coming, Nameless was coming, Juakali was coming, obviously those who had registered and had not even bothered to go and get the ID cards, they went and got. The queues were incredible.
So this is a tried and tested method, and it has worked previously. And the same body. Now it's then ECK.
6 million.
Yeah. Yes, this process, and it was a concerted effort by ECK, by a lot of civil society organization, and by this group. At the end of the registration period, it was miraculous. Young people, over 6 million people had gotten into the...
And what period of time are we looking at here?
1 year.
Okay. So
1 year. But the preparation was actually much longer. So that's why planning is everything.
So the thing for the IEBC is that surely they must have known that there's an election coming up in 2022, right? So a year
it's
or
like
so
a pregnancy.
Sure, you don't just wake
After
up and it's 9 months, right?
Baby is here.
Okay. So it could be done. So would you say
it can be done? It has been done.
So would you say then that what we're looking at now is maybe an attempt at a maybe lazy approach to getting this thing done? Because if we're saying not less than 4 months ago, we had one exercise which clearly flopped. And then now we are doing another exercise in the same manner in which we did the last one. There are practitioners of this same thing who had no idea that there was another exercise that's coming up on the 17th of January, 2022. It's 7 months to a general election, whereby you hoped to have 6 people registered last year. 6 million people registered in October last year. It didn't happen. What are the guarantees that another 6 million, even 100,000 will register in January without doing the right work? And isn't this then a reflection of how other things are failing because of poor planning and implementation?
You said it. I will add on something else. 2 things, 2 points. The first point, there is this issue about doing the same thing
over and over.
And expecting different results.
It should be a lesson to all of us that you really can't do the same thing using the same methods, using the same approaches, and have the same. If you don't succeed today, you rise up like a phoenix and ask yourself, what are the lessons I can learn from my failure? And how can I do this best? There are so many young people working at IEBC, in government, in all sorts of places. You seek out ideas from innovative groups, innovative people. You collaborate with others. The business of elections, the business of democracy is not the business of IEBC alone. It's all our business. We have a stake at it, all of us, not just the voters. If we don't have good elections and political stability and peace, you will not sit here with me, chatting about these things. We will be elsewhere. And therefore, it's your business.
It is, but there's something that your institute and other well-meaning groups of people have done. You played right into the hands of government institutions, and I'm going to explain what I mean. If you look at our education sector and the health sector, the majority of people who ply that particular sphere are private practitioners in this country.
Mm-hmm.
This government is very quick to let other people take over their role. When you came in and helped them participate in doing all this, at the back of their mind they figured, reaching out to people, civil society.
Us will provide tents.
Yes.
But the other thing also, you must be willing. I tell you, as I said, I've been in this business for a long time. I remember there was a time when we couldn't have access to ECK. You couldn't dare get beyond the. We started, it is the late Grace Gido who started inroads and successfully managed to create entry points with the late Kivuitu. And in fact, I think it was during Kivuitu's tenure that we had access to ECK and started collaborating with. So it's not only an issue of government ceding their functions. Sometimes, when you talk about voter apathy, it is not just apathy on the voters alone. It's also apathy on the institutions that manage these processes. I say this is because you have a duty to do and you just sit back and wait. Or you make an effort. And one of the things I was telling my children the other day, we must learn not to be a complainant, because complaints will not take you anywhere. You must learn to soar like an eagle and just oversee what other people are doing and just make sure that you do your thing. And one of the things is, you cannot say, for example, that I have not been able to reach my target of registering 6 million people because of voter apathy. You have to find a reason. You have to find how you are going to address that issue. It's my business.
There is a small issue of competing interests.
That too.
Because when I look at the focus of that the IEBC has, or issues emanating in and around the IEBC, it is not about voter registration. It's about ballot papers, it's about ballot boxes, it's about which mechanism, which ICT platform we are going to use this time. And all these items that I mentioned involve billions. For some reason, everything in this country is in the tens of billions of shillings. It always is.
On the government side.
Yes, very soon cars are going to cost $1 billion shillings.
But in the private sector, it's probably different. You are right about that. When we started this morning, you told me one day at a time.
Yes.
And it is also the same thing. If you want to succeed really, you can't do everything at the same time. You have to compartmentalize. And you have everything in its own compartment, and everything with its own teams, and everything with its own time frame and prioritization. So it is time now to do registration. You deal with that. And you see, and you focus, and you see who are my interlocutors, who are my targets, who are my audience. The media is the biggest supporter and the biggest the biggest driver of some of these campaigns. You engage them. I know they like to be paid for services, but there is a commercial part of it that you can use. But there is also the social media and also the other media that you can use. Surely, every media house has a corporate social responsibility aspect that you can give some airtime. I see the media houses, how do you say, airing live some of these things, and I'm thinking that is an opportunity that can be used
by others as well.
By others to ensure that you galvanize the kind of attention or the kind of engagement that you want to have.
Time for a break. It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM, on KTN Home and online. Our guest this morning is Ambassador Koki Muli. She's a governance, democracy and elections expert. Also lectures at the Southeastern Kenya University. We are talking about the IEBC plan to roll out the enhanced continuous voter registration exercise again from Monday the 7th of January to the 6th of February. First of all, just engage with us on social media. Are you aware that this exercise is about to commence from Monday up to the 6th of February? If you're in the diaspora, are you aware that it's about to commence from the 21st of January for 15 days in 12 countries: Burundi, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, South Africa, the United Kingdom, Canada, USA, South Sudan, Qatar, UAE, and Germany? Are you aware? That's what we're discussing.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
At 17 degrees in Nairobi,
The
it
weather.
is sunny this morning. Highs of 25 and lows of 16 at 14. Nakuru is sunny. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 11. Nyeri town, sunny at 12, highs of 25 and lows of 10. It's sunny in Eldoret at 14, highs of 25 and lows of 13. We're looking at partly sunny conditions in Mombasa at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 25. While in Malindi, it is mostly sunny at 28. It'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 26. We're looking at sunny conditions at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 33 and lows of 19. We'll see 33 as the high in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 22. Kampala sunny at 21, highs of 30 and lows of 17. While we're looking at light rain in Dar es Salaam at 29, it'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 27. Johannesburg is mostly cloudy at 16, we'll see highs of 23. 33 will be the high in a clear Lagos, currently at 26. It's raining in Kinshasa at 21. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 29.
Spice up your life.
There's quite a bit of it on Jogoro this morning, and that is not letting up, at least not for now. Looking a little bit better on Mombasa Road, but that weighbridge situation is kind of sticky. Going to take some time to get out of this one. Raila Odinga Way is taking the hit from Langata Road this morning. Quite a lot of traffic and feeding off to Ngong Road as well. Those who are looking for an escape are not using the bypasses as often, but that's an option for you to use this morning. We're looking at Uhuru Highway, which is jam-packed from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout out through to Haile Selassie Avenue. What else? Coming out of Westlands as well continues to be a thing. Thika Superhighway again, a little bit better now as you get towards the Pangani underpass. That's where things will look a little bit prettier. But Limuru Road in and outbound is a thing. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th Parklands Avenue, jam-packed. That whole Parklands area a thing today, as well as Outer Ring when we look on the eastern side of the city. Let's take a look in a short while and see what it looks like. Hopefully we should be out of traffic hours soon. Be patient. Till then, SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
23
right.
minutes to 9.
94.4 Spice FM.
Online and on KTN Home. With you this and every weekday morning is Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga, and our guest is Ambassador Koki Muli. We are talking about the preparation for this year's general election. Voter registration exercise is about to begin. That is a mass education enhanced continuous voter registration campaign that begins on Monday, the 7th of January and up to the 6th of February across the country. And then later on in the month, from the 21st of January for 15 days, various countries globally targeting Kenyans in the diaspora. Burundi, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, South Africa, UK, Canada, USA, South Sudan, Germany, UAE, and Qatar. Are you aware that this is happening? Do you have your ID or passport ready to participate in this exercise, and what needs to happen? Ambassador, You have said very many times, and yes, you have been in this election space for 3 decades or more. You have engaged with various stakeholders. You have seen commissioners at the ECK come and go, and directors. You have seen IEBC commissioners and directors come and go, and you've interacted with many of them. Last year, when the president declared a vacancy in the IEBC, you're among those who applied, and you were called in for an interview, and you participated in the interview. Unfortunately for the country, you are not among those who were picked. However, my question comes into this way. As you're preparing for those interviews, you definitely must have looked through your experience and studied what are the gaps currently in IEBC. And if I become a commissioner with IEBC, these are the gaps that I need us to fix. What are those gaps, Ambassador?
First, I better declare that this is not an uncomfortable conversation for me to have, because it is not the first time that I had sought to be a commissioner at the IEBC. I did previously, and secondly, the reason why I seek to do this is because I think I have something to add. I have some value to add in the process. But then also there are many Kenyans who also have a lot to add. And therefore, when you look for a job, you don't necessarily have guarantee that you will get it, whether you are qualified or not. Whoever is looking to hire, they are looking for specific, special fits, the right fit for the position that they are looking for. Yeah. So I don't suffer from sour grapes.
They are multidimensional. We are having a conversation with a statistician. And they're multidimensional in what they're looking for.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you may look for qualities. I may have a few of what they are looking for, but I may not have everything that they want. Okay. And therefore, I don't hold this against the government or the interview panel or whoever is in the selection. It is okay. And this, when I speak harshly or bluntly about electoral issues, I speak them from my heart. I don't speak out of sour grapes, because if I had sour grapes, I would not come here and socialize with you. I would just sit at home and sulk. And wait for the next vacancy
and ferment quietly.
You see, and
said grapes.
And it's like the story of the carrying rotten tomatoes for weeks because you are angry, and so that's how anger and sour grapes deal with people. I love my country. I am a patriot. I always say that. And I am very happy I had an opportunity to prove that I'm a patriot for almost 7 years when I went and served my country as ambassador in foreign countries and defended our interest. This is what you see. And all my years I've worked in this area, it is really because I love Kenya. And this is where I want to spend my glorious years until the good Lord calls me across. So, when with regard to the question you ask, and in terms of the improvements, you won't believe me when I tell you that we are so much more in a better place than we were ever in terms of the IEBC, in terms of electoral, the legal framework, the institutional framework, and also the capacities and the independence that institution has got to date. It never was like that. It was terrible before. And I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that what we have right now, if we really used it well and applied well, we would really make a lot more progress. I told you previously when we had a conversation that we have come a long way, but we want to have more because we know we have potential for more. And that's why I am telling you the gaps in the IEBC. For example, we have a very comprehensive legal framework. The problem is we don't implement it. That's a big gap. The second thing is that you said about Muga, about we do things in billions. We are fixated about budget and money. We need to move beyond that and implement and utilize those resources. You work with what you have at the time you have those resources.
Can I jump in there, Ambassador? Because as some of the things that you're talking about now, in order to solve a problem, to get a solution, you must look at what is causing the problem.
Exactly.
Right? To say, okay, we have a problem here, we have a problem here. If we're going to get to a solution stage, then we need to fix this particular issue. Right? Now, you've talked about you talked about the system being fixated on money. And budgets. But is that not
little action?
Right. Is that not what the IEBC told us in October? That we would have liked to do more. But the money that we asked for in the first place, we did not get, and we're only going to be able to get to point B. So are you then saying that if you look at it holistically, that probably the issue is not money? That there could be another issue that if you took care of, you could get a little bit more. What stops us in so many instances of so many cases from making that leap? Because we've been told so many times, you have the potential, you can do so much better, but then we're not seeing that leap from having the potential to actually becoming. Why is it? Is it money? Is it lack? Or is it a compilation of all of these issues?
It's a compilation of all these issues. When you don't have sufficient funds to do what you have to do, and then you must do it anyway, you look at what you have and you prioritize on that basis. Take, for example, in your house, you have a budget for the month, and then suddenly you have an emergency. Let's say something happens and you need to resolve it. You spend a certain amount of money dealing with that emergency, so it leaves you with a certain amount that is not enough for the month. What do? Do you sit back and complain, or do you make do with what you have?
Make do.
That's what we are talking about. So we say, okay, I must prove to you that I promise you that what you give me is not enough, but it can take me to point B. So my business now is to take all of us to point B, so that then you can see I have
If you had
proved
given
my
me
point.
more, we could have gone to C.
Exactly. So if I tell you I will take you to point B, but I take you somewhere between point A and B, and I had told you that I could take you to point B with what you have given me, what are you left thinking? Don't answer. Now, the other point is, and I'm saying this out of love, out of love. What we started with. I'm saying this out of love for my country, and because I know that if we all focused on what we are supposed to do and did our best with what we have, we will surely make the difference. We will take that leap that you are talking about, do. Because we lack, I don't know, is it discipline?
Yes.
We also, to add to your factors, all these factors you are saying, that derail us. And we also put a lot of hurdles on our way. We don't trust each other, we don't trust our systems, and therefore we legislate for trust. We spend millions of shillings trying to resolve trust issues instead of focusing on what moves Kenya forward. And so, and also people lack discipline. And as you said earlier, I don't know if it was on air or before, when you have people working in an organization, but they are kila mtu ni mjuaji na ni mkubwa. Everybody is an expert and they are important and they are big. Therefore, you really don't have the leadership. You have to have a hierarchy. Strategic leadership must be up here. And then the team, you have to have soldiers and the generals. You can't all be generals. Someone has to really,
Someone has to do the job.
Has to do the job. And then those who are doing the job, they need to have strategic leadership and guidance, so that you know this is my level. My level is on policy framework and guidance. I am going to ensure that the three of you come here every morning and you do your thing the best way, without having to worry about who is making what decision. Put people on their lane, facilitate them on their lane, but they must remain on their lane and move this needle forward. That's the idea. So the issues you're asking me, it is not only wrong, it's not what is missing or the challenges that IEBC is suffering from. It's the challenges that our society is suffering from. We are always blaming someone else and complaining about what we are not able to do. We must really own our truth and start looking at our own self and how we are contributing or not contributing. Because you can't really wake up every morning and come here. Like, for example, what you are doing is very important. You are actually educating me and everyone else about this campaign, the dates, what you need to go to register as a voter, where in the diaspora this is going to happen. And your influence in social media is going to help a lot more Kenyans to come out. But then we have to find a way, everybody, all the young people, all the people who are unregistered. You can't go saying, I'm not registering because the leaders we have are not good enough. You are the reason why we have these choices we have. If you registered as a voter and came out to vote, you would actually be able to determine the kind of leader that you want. But you can't just sit home and complain. And that's why I'm saying, really, if you are 18 and above, go out, get an ID card and register as a voter and go out and vote for the person that you want to vote for, to make a change, or even present yourself as a candidate. But don't complain if you get, charlatans as your leaders, because you are the reason they are there.
How do you deal with some of these competing interests? Because in as much as we hear them and they sound frivolous, to the person who is bringing them out, they have some weight. Some of the things that we've heard is, well, I'm not even going to bother with this whole process because I've seen it previously has been flawed. Things have been decided already in advance of time. These are ideas that people have that would stop them from going out and do this thing that you're talking about now. How do we deal with those attitudes? Because people will tell you, no, the decisions have already been made. So my activity in this whole process then doesn't matter.
How do you change attitude? It is by creating awareness and replacing lack of information with some information. I would say it is not to love and be loved that is everything. Love is wonderful, but it must be accompanied by faith and hope. If you have no faith and hope, you can't successfully love and be loved. And I'm talking about this because these competing issues within the IEBC, within government and outside government, are important and cannot be trivialized. The apathy among young people and other voters, it's not, by the way, only young people who are saying, listen, I go to vote every year, and what do I get? My vote doesn't count. The only way we can show people that their vote counts is continuously providing civic and voter education and to show a difference. Let me tell you, for years, Kenyans were trying to have a new constitution. For years, since independence. Since the 70s, the late 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. It was only in 2010 that we got a new Katiba. And how did we do that? You realize that people actually woke up. Civic education made fundamental difference. The involvement, that bombers process, really woke people up. And the CKRC going outside Kenya, outside Nairobi,
to the towns,
to the villages, and those community hearings like the same ones that the IEBC used to do for boundary delimitation. They do make a difference because you reach out to people and you have a conversation in a community about why we should register as a voter. And people say like, really? Oh, wow, okay. Well, maybe I'll give it a try. But it is important to create awareness. Sometimes it is lack of information, sufficient information. And it is also persuasion that, listen, it will actually make a difference when you go out and vote and cast a vote. Because if you are enough and you don't want Muga to be your member of parliament, he will not be. And then you can choose Ndu to be your member of parliament to replace him. I know I'll be in trouble. But anyway, you get the point I'm saying.
Yes.
That it is, we need to create awareness for sure. And people need, information is power really. And that's what we need to get out to people. And we also need to persuade people. Because if I want you to see my point, I'm not going to sit here and sulk. I have to persuade you.
But there's a competing interest with what you say. It is true what you say, and it is spot on. The competing interest is called lived experience. Because you will talk to young people, and yet what you're saying may be, they may understand it at an academic level, but they look at their lived experience and they find congruence. There is, so what you then have is an entire generation of people
that are lost.
Yes, and they actually don't give a damn. And the reason is everything you're telling them to give a damn about, they look at, and they look at their lives, and this benefit you're speaking of, again, is an academic subject.
We'll respond to that after we say goodbye to our audience on KTN. They've been with us from the top of the hour, but the conversation continues on SpiceFM. Ambassador Koki Muli, governance, democracy and election expert, with us in the studio. We have been on KTN home from the top of the hour up to now, but the conversations continue on 94.4 FM in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.7 in Malindi, or also on social media. SpiceFM KE. We are live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, so
mornings.
Ambassador, how do you respond to that? Lived experience.
As I said, I've watched and lived a lot of experiences in this area. There was a time that I thought that going to vote was a waste of time. I had my idea a long time ago, and the first election I went out and voted was in 1992. Before that, I used to say the same things. And then somebody told me that the most important person, the most important elected leader is my local representative. The lowest.
The councillor then.
Yes, councillor then. And I thought they were joking. And then I started looking at what councillors do, or what they didn't do because they didn't know what to do. And then I said, if we have good leadership at my local level, it will not matter very much what shenanigans are up here. And it is still true.
It's even truer now.
It's even truer now that we have devolved government, 2 levels of government. Because really, in places where you have had fantastic county leadership, county government leadership, you have seen results. And that's why, for young people who are not yet convinced and their lived experience is different, I am sure they can see the difference county government and devolved government has done to their localities. And that's just an example of what much more they can get. And that's what we are talking about, the lived experience. Because if you look at the county government's infrastructure, for example, hospitals, I didn't know there were level 5, level 4, level whatever hospitals until county government came. No one can say that they don't have a level something hospital in their
ward.
town, in their ward. You have, and these are infrastructures that didn't exist before. So our lived experience is, it is possible if we have leadership that is responsive to the interests
But I think,
of their own
Ambassador,
people.
even from what you've just said yourself, it took somebody to come and tell you. So, with the same thing that City is saying, we need somebody to come and tell these people who have lived experience but they are feeling disillusioned why they need to participate.
That's why I'm talking about civic education, voter education, persuasion, talking to people, so that, because we need to, in order for me to move from my point of ignorance, which is where I was then, to the point of enlightenment, somebody had to intervene. So I had somebody tell me it really does make a difference. And I said, why not? So I gave it a try. But now we not only have lived experiences, we have live examples.
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
Let's
that
get to the
in
top of
fact,
the hour.
good leadership makes a difference.
Let's get the news and then we can conclude this conversation with you, and then we allow you to go to Kwavonza and teach. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Governors from Ukambani are expected to meet with other leaders from the region at the Machakos Convention Center from 10 a.m. This is after the Southern Eastern Kenya Economic Bloc leadership Dr. Alfred Muthui, Professor Kivutha Kibwana and Governor Charity Ngilu agreed to meet during a virtual meeting. The leaders resolved to mobilize the people from the 3 counties as well as those in the diaspora to register as voters once the second mass registration kicks off later this month. The meeting will also discuss the political future of the region ahead of the 2022 general elections. The second and final phase of the enhanced continuous voter registration has been set for January 17th to 6th of February 2022. A petition filed by activist Okiya Omtata seeking to block Deputy President William Ruto's bid for the presidency while in office has been transferred from the Constitutional Court to the Employment and Labour Relations Court. In the petition, Omtata wants any public officer, including a sitting deputy president, to vacate office before nomination as a presidential candidate. According to orders issued by Justice James Makau, the petition, which challenges Section 43 of the Election Act as read with Article 99 of the Constitution, falls squarely under the jurisdiction of the Employment and Labour Relations Court and not the Constitutional Court. Principal secretaries are camping at the coast region this week on a mission to ensure key development projects are on track to deliver expected impact. The National Development Implementation Technical Committee, chaired by Interior PS Dr. Karanja Kibisho, is seeking to optimize the efficiency and impact of Mombasa Port, the Container Terminal 2, and the new Kipevu Oil Terminal, among other projects. The committee will also review the progress made in implementing key interventions agreed on by various agencies last year towards addressing complaints raised by freighters and port users over inefficiencies at the facility. Kibisho says the PSs have split into 4 groups focusing on projects in Mombasa, Kwale and Kilifi counties. Women activists in Isiolo have decided to seek justice for one of them who was murdered over land disputes allegedly by her neighbor. Elizabeth Ibrahim, a human rights activist well known for peace and conflict resolution matters, was stabbed by a neighbor over a land issue at Manyata Camp Garba in Isiolo County. Ibrahim was on the forefront as a rights activist, peace champion and environmental and land rights defender. The perpetrator allegedly lured her to a trap and fatally stabbed her. And hundreds of women from Kerio Valley have walked 20 kilometers to demand the transfer of security bosses in the volatile area over what they termed as security lapses in the region. Kerio Valley has been a hotbed of cattle rustling attacks for decades, but the attacks intensified in recent years after 12 years of calm between 2003 and 2015. The protesters, a number of them widows of banditry attacks in the Kerio Valley, walked to Marakwet East Deputy County Commissioner Simon Osumba in Chesoi. They threatened to stage another walk from the troubled area to State House, Nairobi, to ask President Uhuru Kenyatta to end the unending bloodletting in Kerio Valley, which has worsened since July last year, resulting in the deaths of at least 50 people. And police in Embu have arrested a 30-year-old man in connection to a fatal attack that left a 75-year-old woman dead, with the husband receiving treatment after sustaining severe injuries. Embu West Sub-County Police Commander Julius Kiumbure, confirming the incident, said it is neighbors who raised an alarm in the morning after finding the couple in their homestead. According to neighbors, the attack happened in the wee hours of the night, which did not attract any attention. The main suspect, who is already in police custody, is said to be a relative to the old couple and were living together in the homestead. The body of the deceased was taken to Embu Teaching and Referral Hospital morgue. And Kelechi Iheanacho overshadowed fellow Premier League stars Mohamed Salah and Riyad Mahrez as Nigeria made a winning start to their final Cup of Nations campaign and title holders Algeria were held. The Leicester City forward scored the only goal on 30 minutes as Nigeria overcame lackluster Egypt 1-0 in a clash of Group D B guns in the northwestern city of Garoua. His match winner and overall performance earned Iheanacho the Man of the Match award on a day when prolific Liverpool scorer Salah and Manchester City winger Mahrez failed to sparkle. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so we're looking at some of it on Jogoro this morning, getting into the city. That still continues. We're still in traffic hour, guys, and quite heavy still on Langata Road. Coming off of Raila Odinga Way, getting towards Gong Road this morning. That's where we see the most of an issue. Looking much better on the Thika Superhighway. That has dissipated. Coming out of Westlands, is where we still are with that. Outer Ring looking a lot better now as you're trying to get towards the Thika Superhighway or coming back in the direction of Mombasa Road. We should be out of traffic hour in a short while. Last few contenders for the traffic award this morning are still trying to give it a spirited effort, but keep looking at things as we go along. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
it's
day.
7 minutes after 9. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, the final hour of the show this Wednesday morning. It begins with the proverb about love.
Yes, it does. Kupenda sio kitu. Kupendwa ni kitu. Lakini kupenda na kupendwa ni kila kitu. I was about to say ni mambo yote.
How about kupenda kupendwa?
Well, this is the beauty of Proverbs.
Is it? Kupenda kupendwa.
Kupenda kupendwa. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Meaning the focus is actually on yourself,
Yes,
not on other people.
you love to be loved.
Yes. You want to be the center of attention and center of focus.
Politicians are that. That's what I'm asking.
You know, when you say, Eric, when you say politicians are that, you are right. But the thing I keep asking myself is, the behavior we see in politicians, is it something inherent, something innate, or is it learned behavior? One could argue it's both, okay? And then because you're talking about a situation where someone is one thing before they get into parliament, and you visibly see them changing, visibly. And so, nature, nurture. Is it the influence of the environment that they are in, or were they always that way inclined, and the environment now just gives them an opportunity to blossom?
Providing a conducive one.
Yes. And yet, what confounds that also, you will come across people who are one thing before they got elected, they're the same thing you knew before. They haven't changed.
I think all of us are that. Tunapenda kupendwa. Look for affirmation in every single way, you know.
Our politicians
can you just tell us, for example, that you like our show, you know?
Eric, actually, you're right when you talk about affirmation, but remember, there's this national quest to be rich. Okay, where everybody thinks they're businessmen and women, and yet they are not. They're plunderers. Every opportunity that they have to steal, because it's stealing, really.
It is.
Yes. Either through fictitious mileage claims,
You can dress it up and call it
fictitious
something
meetings, whatever it is. But the quest is the same. Then you'll find means of excusing yourself and saying, it's the electorate. The people who elected are always demanding. And yet, who got the electorate used to this habit of receiving handouts? Who? Did they get themselves used to it?
And they never used to be like that before.
They never were. Never were. People never elected you because you gave them something, no?
Yeah, I remember that distinctly.
Yes. You are either considered a good church goer and a good representative of the community, but you're somebody, essentially they knew you. And they figured, we know this person.
They looked at how you handled your affairs, whether
Yes.
it was at the basic units, your
Yes.
family.
Yes.
They looked at how you handled your business, if you had some kind of commercial enterprise, or if you worked for somebody. They looked at how you handled and managed that. And then based on all of these factors, if you then presented yourself for a position of leadership, it was easy for them to choose. There was no way they were going to choose the village thief to be a leader, or the village drunkard.
And the village
that
thief also
person was
knew
not,
they would not be chosen.
Right.
Yeah.
That individual was not going to be chosen for a position of leadership. But if you look at some of the famous books that we've read, I think of Things Fall Apart, and Okonkwo was chosen as somebody who could lead because
he had already exhibited
some traits and qualities, and people said, here we can choose. It was never about whom he gave what, or who, looked nice or was dressed up fancily with, fleeting words.
That's correct. But the person who is seeking to be elected, those days, they didn't just have the qualities. They didn't have what it takes. They were also genuinely interested
in the welfare of people.
In the welfare of the people.
Of people doing
I
better.
remember the local member of parliament used to go from primary school to primary school. That's how come we were like, mkubwa anakuja, kiongozi. There was no mkubwa. The language was kiongozi. Mutongoi. Kiongozi anakuja, kiongozi wa kisiasa anakuja. And when they came, they would genuinely sit and listen. They didn't just come and speak. Like how people come here and they have a written speech.
They have not shot, there's a microphone.
And they have not been sitting to listen to what is going on. They come in the middle of everything. They are given the opportunity because they are kiongozi. They speak. And then a few questions are shot and they raise and they go.
And then they say,
they have,
kuna mkutano ingine lazima niende.
they have no idea. They have no idea what the conversation is about, what the atmosphere is about, the environment. And they also don't know the views of other people. Have you seen, they go to a meeting and they leave the meeting not wiser than the way they came.
So this thing of listening to the ground is a lie.
Which
I'm listening
ground?
to the ground so that I can then know what decision to
You are a
make.
local leader who comes, you are a local political leader because you are a leader in your own way. When you meet with them, what, and let's say you are the ground. Just remember the last time you listened to your local leader. Did they listen to what you had to say?
Can I tell you what they did? They were also contributing 1,000 shillings when we were trying to fix the road. That's what the local leader was doing last time.
And saying what
Being
as
part
they
of the
contribute.
solution.
As they
As they contribute, they are complaining. They are complaining about how many other places they have to contribute. Instead of telling you genuinely, how much does this road cost?
Can't
And
we
this
fix it
road,
once and
this road needs 10 billion because we like billions. Who is responsible for fixing this road? Is it my contribution and your contribution? No, hell no, it's not. It is there is a department, there is a ministry, there is a budget, there is money we put and there is budget for it. So you go out to that budget. I remember my local member of parliament and my local councillor, they never used to carry money. Those days they were paid peanuts like all of us. And you come and you say, this water tower has broken or something like that, or there's no road here, or there's no school here, or there's no dispensary. They actually went to the relevant government offices that did that because nobody carried billions around. We had not even heard of million shillings with a Kenyan in the pocket. How? That was a reserve of very few people. So it is an issue of, it's not just that the leaders have the qualities to lead, but also they have the interests of their people. And because as a representative, you have only 3 functions as a member of parliament. Function number 1 is really representation. Function number 2 is really legislation. And function number 3 is oversight.
That's it.
And oversight means all these things about accountability, holding other people to account, and also holding yourself to account. And everybody knew those 3 functions. And everybody did those 3 functions. Because I knew if they didn't do after 5 years, watatolewa.
Come back and the questions
And
will be
imagine
asked.
there was only one party then. And people are concerned about losing elections.
Yes.
And they went out to do something to make sure they didn't lose. And Kenyans also said, aya, wewe, unaendanga alafu
Utatuona.
ukuji. Aya, dodhi uke. You know, enda urudi.
That's how we graduate the conversation now, actually, Ambassador, into this hour, which is what we were going into as we were going to the top of the hour, the issue of civic education and awareness. And then as we now do that civic education, the question that we've been asking and we want to be asking as we go into August, how do we vet our leaders? What is it that voters need to do as they are vetting the leaders? How are we going to be vetting our leaders when they're coming to us and they're campaigning and what is it that we're looking for?
It's very simple. You know, those days there were no requirements for qualifications to have a university degree, to have all sorts of things. The only thing is that you had to be proficient either in Kiswahili or English. And the reason is your function as a representative. You needed to speak. To interrogate issues, and it was important to have language. They didn't even talk much about your academic credentials because those then were not just important because we knew that leadership was like a gift. It was like a talent, a gift from God, and that when you held this gift, you held it in trust for the community, and you utilize it as a privilege. These days, leadership is not like a gift. You can just go with your university degree and that qualifies you as a leader. Then it was a little bit more because nobody just threw themselves in the ring. There were people who presented themselves and said that I would like to run for MP. And there was a group of elders were sent to that person to tell them,
don't.
Watcha.
Please don't attempt.
Please. It was true. I mean, this is my lived experience. I remember in my place, certain people wanted to vie, and the community didn't think that they had what it took. And they were persuaded not to, and they were told to do other things, which they did. And so that...
And they were supported in those other things.
And they actually... Yes, they were supported in those other things. And there was that sense of leadership, sense of honor, integrity, those days. And that is why I'm saying, you see, like for us, we vetted leadership. It didn't matter whether you had a degree or not. Like you remember leaders like Namulu Mutisia.
Yep.
They never went to school, but they had something to offer. In our villages, some of them, we took the most educated person. And that person was sent with the interest of the community at heart. Wewe ndio utaenda upeleke mahitaji yetu kwa serikali. And people took their roles and functions seriously. The duty of representation, where people had to say, no. This is not what we want.
Is that lost, though?
Do you see it? That's a difference.
I want to ask you,
now,
because you see, last week we had a conversation with somebody who's aspiring to be an MCA in Nairobi. DNG, the musician. He wants to be MCA for, what's that word called? John, it's 3 in 1. John will remind me and I'll get in my notes. So he was telling us when he was going to the people and telling them, I want to be MCA, there were things that they were asking. There's some local vetting that is taking place. Right?
No.
What have you done? What are you doing? Who are you? Same thing we had with somebody who wants to be an MP in Kisii County. He says, community, actually, the first thing they do is, what's your family background? Where do you come from?
Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course.
Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course for DNG, right? And then the other gentleman that we had from Bomachoge is saying, the first thing they do is we want to know where you come from, where your family, your values. Do you understand us? Do you live among us? And then what have you done? You, not your family. What have you done within the community?
That's why I was telling you, Eric, earlier, that the most important leader used to be the local councillor, because that is the one who is most vetted. And the second most vetted from that one is a member of parliament. These days, and that is how far we went. You know, president and people of that level.
That was a given.
That was somebody else's business to vet. And that's why when you left your local constituency to go to Nairobi to represent people in parliament, you also carried not just the aspirations and the interest of your people, you also carried the oversight function with you. Because people wanted you to vet
so you go and
their
vet
president.
The ones higher.
You are vetting the others in turn. So we had to be sure that you are the right person for us. Vetting, yes, it happens. But a lot of times when you have this six suit, what do you call it? Six-piece suit. Where is that vetting? In a place like Nairobi here. You know, in the village, people know. People know.
They do.
People know who is good for them. But there is still also influence of money now, which is something that we learned from politicians. And then we have perfected it. Kura kwa huyu, kula kwa yule. And in addition to that, there is also the issue of people had fear, you know. Because if I ask you, for example, why do you want to be a leader? It's a very difficult question for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But people now Google and they, you know,
They
it doesn't come from the
You know, the
heart.
question that you raise is an interesting one, because the question I would ask is not why do you want to be a leader? What makes you think you're a leader is what I would ask. Because is it because you think you're educated? Is it because the people supporting you are the largest clan in that particular constituency that we come from?
Those are
Is
the
it
reasons.
because you're friends with so-and-so who
So-
wants to be president?
Yes, who belongs to this party, and we know that, again, this region belongs to this party.
And with them anyway, whether or not you support me, I will win.
Yeah.
There is always that
Because of
attitude.
6 P's.
Yes, so now, the very things that we're saying, it's a stillbirth, meaning we can talk about it academically, but it almost doesn't matter. And then we wonder why it is young people are apathetic towards the process. Because they see all these things and they realize, you know, this one, if I don't toe the line and I'm not here and I don't do this, it doesn't matter what I think I represent. But again, that's where they're wrong. Because we have seen repeatedly people who don't toe those lines and still get elected.
Exactly. And also the other thing is people also get apathetic because I spent my 1 week talking to you, establishing your credentials, making you establish your credentials, and having you to promise what you are going to do. It's not about what I have done in the past. It's about what I can do and what I will do for you, which is important, and whether I have capacity to do that. Because when you are elected, you don't need to have money to be a good leader, to be a good representative. You just have to use your, intellect to be able to do.
When you talk about the vetting process, I was thinking, you find people who have been MCAs or in the past councillors vying for positions of members of parliament and becoming members of parliament.
It's true.
It means they were vetted, their track record has been seen, and decided, no, this person needs to represent us at a different level.
Exactly.
And we have also seen, and I personally don't need 10 examples, I just need one example. Somebody who's a member of parliament and then becomes governor. It tells you the people have observed what this person has done as member of parliament. They figured, you know something, this guy can actually be governor.
Exactly. And in fact, they are overqualified for the job we gave them.
Yes.
So
let's give them a job that is equal to their ability.
You know, it reminds me of something I never quite follow. The qualifications to be the president, to be a member of parliament, and to be MCR. There is a clause in the qualification to be a member of parliament that says you cannot vie for parliament if you are an MCR. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
You've got to resign.
I think
remember the case with the Gatendo North MP?
You have to resign.
Yes. But why? It is curious. It's the only thing you can, if you are an MP.
You can vie to be governor or senator.
You can vie to be governor. No, MP includes senators and National Assembly. If you are a member of parliament, you can vie to be president. You can vie to be governor. There's no proviso. There is no barrier. But if you are an MCA, that is your life. and you know what I mean? And that's why I was thinking, people who write history, the victors are the ones who write.
Who determine?
Who determine.
Yes.
And of course, because members of parliament are the ones who
write the law.
And this is actually not in Elections Act. It is in the Constitution, which means to remove it is going to be a pain. And it's not likely to happen quickly. But it is also one of misinformation that happens in Kenya. Like, for example, if you say you have the interests of the people at heart, then there is no reason to make false promises and to lie to them. Because they know Kenyans are very perceptive. They know when you are lying. Like somebody is coming to ask for your vote at in my local at constituency level or otherwise, and you tell me something that I know you can't deliver.
Yeah.
Because I mean, also people who are looking to be elected, some of them, not all of them, there are actually some really good senators that I've met and listened to. They are really good members of members of National Assembly, women reps, governors, and their deputies, and they are really good people I have met, and I've wondered why we don't have a little bit more of that kind of people. So among us, these viongozis, there are some really good ones. The ones that have been vetted, the ones that feel an obligation. The problem we have in Kenya, or the biggest problem we have, is a kiongozi, a representative who feels no obligation, who feels the need to be accountable to the people you represent. If you don't have that feeling, watu wangu watasemaje jamani? If you cannot ask yourself that, then you have lost it. And that's the problem we have, because a growing number of people are in that category. They say like, you throw, as you say in Kikamba, you throw your hands in the air.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying the vetting might occur, but the person that you are talking with of golf course may not actually be the one, because he may be in the wrong party, for example. As you say, if I am the owner of the party and this is my area, this is my region, the wave means unless really you are fantastic.
If you're not...
And if you have not served before, people may not know.
They're really fed up with the other person.
Yes. It's a protest vote.
Let's take a caller here. The Kennedy is in Kisumu and he wants to contribute. Good morning, Kennedy.
Good morning, Latiff. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good morning, City Muga.
Kennedy, how are you today?
I'm all right. I'm so much impressed with the Proverbs today. I'm actually feeling so much motivated by it. Sometimes you can pick some wonderful things. You always speak, but others are more higher than the other.
I thank you very much. What you've just done is what the Swahili say, unanipaka siagi. But thank you very much.
Fantastic. How are you doing, darling?
Very well, thank you. Good morning.
How are you? I'm okay. I'm not complaining. God is in control.
Indeed.
Fantastic. So, Kokimuli, hi.
Hi, Kennedy. How are you? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm so much impressed with you. I've actually heard you for the second time. This station, we call it in Doluo, this station is Marwa. So every single time we are glued to it.
Yes,
so I heard you first time and today again. I'm so much impressed.
Thank you very much. Unanipaka siagi.
So before you actually step out of studio, ask CP Muga to tell you this station is Marwa means what in Jango, eh?
I know what it is. I know. Marwa. I also know Ping.
All right.
And I know which is the opposite. So yes, I'm with you.
I
also know Thuon.
All right. You're doing well. That is the best.
We are taking it by Thuon.
Kennedy. All right. Cool. That is why I like scholars like you, because they are fast learners, all right?
Kennedy.
All right. Now, here's the thing, eh?
Yes.
I had actually nearly 2 or 3 more concerns to Kokimuli, and I had to respond to this if time allows, okay? Kokimuli as an expert, because I'm so much impressed. I'm wondering how you have not become the chief commissioner of IEBC. I don't know the criteria the government is using to pick the guys, but anyway, we know them. Anyway, here is the question. Koki, what do you think we can actually do to break the jinx of vetting somebody without engaging them in this 6 piece question? What can you just actually do to engage this concerned parties to help us break the jinx of 6P so that we vet somebody seriously the way we need to as the constituents. That is number one. Number two is actually that I've had you explaining very categorically and nicely the method you use sometimes back with some celebrities like Nameless to facilitate the question of young people actually doing registration as voters. And now we are approaching another one on Monday. Can you actually initiate to these people who are concerned because they have lost network? They seem like they don't have any idea.
Thank you, Kennedy.
Right? So I think that's all. Can you respond to that?
Asante.
Please.
Kennedy, you and I, we must say that Kenya is ours and we will take it by thorn. You understand what I mean? And take the responsibility. It is people like Kennedy who can actually help Kenya. They listen, they feel inspired, they spread the word, and they build a constituency. If we have 10 Kennedys who multiply to 100 Kennedys, 1,000 Kennedys, we are actually going to make a difference. And it is 100 Kennedys who are going to do the proper vetting for the MCA, for the Member of Parliament, and through them and others to their presidential candidate. The good thing is that a presidential candidate comes from a certain constituency, a certain village, a certain home. And there are people around that place who need to take the reins and the responsibility on behalf of Kenya to also vet them. Now, I can say, I don't know how to respond in terms of how to avoid 6-piece suit. But one thing I know for a fact is that an informed citizenry, an informed voter population votes not just for the party, for the political party, but for the individuals. You vote for a person that you know has your interests at heart and can represent you effectively if they are going to county assembly or to parliament, or as the head of, as president. For example, where Kennedy comes from, if Marwa is anything to go by, he comes from a region which is producing a presidential candidate. I come from a region that is presenting a presidential candidate. We all actually do, because everywhere now we have a presidential candidate. It is our responsibility to vet those people. Do we feel that if they were vying as MCA, would we vote for them? If they were vying as MP, would we vote for them? If the answer is yes, then please enable us as Kenyans to know that this is a good person we can vote for. But if the answer is no, you don't want this person as your MCA, your MP, please don't inflict that person to us as a national leader at national level. That's one thing I would say in terms of vetting. And there is no obligation to vote. You can realize that the presidential candidate is someone that you really like. But the MP in the same party is someone who is not qualified. Take the responsibility as a Kenyan and you say, okay, I will vote for this presidential candidate of this party, but I like the MP of party X. I don't like the MP of party A, where my president is coming from. And the MCA is also, the one of party A is actually better. So I will vote MCA and the president from this party, the governor from this party, from this other party, and the MP from this other party, and the women rep from this other party, the senator from this other party, the National Assembly representative from this other party. Feel free to do that, because that power belongs to us. That's why Article 1, the power of the Constitution gives people the power. It is us who donate that power by electing others to represent us, because we all can't fit in parliament and we all can't be leaders. And therefore, we are exercising our own power that we donate. So it is our responsibility, and we must carry that responsibility.
Seriously.
Yes, seriously. So about the second question about reaching out to IEBC and telling them about Vijana Tugutuke and so on. I think that if you are in an institution that has done something before and has done it successfully, you don't need to be reminded that you did a good job this time and this. And by the way, it's not, the IEBC is experiencing challenges with voter apathy. It's not always been the case. It's not always been the case. So what happened?
What lessons?
What lessons can we take from previously?
Yeah.
I speak freely, bluntly, and boldly. I'm not afraid, and that's why I wanted to make the disclaimer. I have no sour grapes. This is me. I have been speaking like this before, during, and after, and I will continue to speak like this.
And we appreciate that.
Because I love my country, and because I know we can be better than what we are doing. And that's why I'm saying it is important for us to think of our contribution, our individual contribution to this quagmire that we find ourselves in now, and try to resolve our own individual contribution. Because if you don't examine yourself and audit what you are doing, then, and spend all the time looking at others, then you are not part of the solution.
Indeed. Ambassador Kokimuli, thank you for joining us today.
You are very welcome.
Asante sana for being blunt, like you said, and for being patriotic.
Thank you.
It's 20 minutes to 10. Let's take a break and take a look at the traffic and weather, and we will continue the conversations. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your...
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this. Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
.5 Spice FM.
Cloudy
Kisumu.
conditions in parts of Nairobi at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 16. At 18 degrees, it's sunny in Nakuru, highs of 28. 25 with the high in Nyeri, where it's sunny at 17, coming down to lows of 11. In Eldoret, it's sunny at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 13. And we are looking at light rain in Mombasa at 29, highs of 32 and lows of 25. Kisumu is sunny at 25, highs of 33. We're looking at Malindi will be partly sunny throughout most of today, going to highs of 31 and lows of 26. Sunny in Kakamega at 26, highs of 33 and lows of 16. Kampala is sunny at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 17 today. Dar es Salaam, light rain at 29, highs of 32 and lows of 27. Johannesburg is mostly cloudy at 17. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15 today. Partly sunny conditions in Lagos at 26, highs of 33. Light rain continues in Kinshasa at 21, highs of 29 and lows of 21. It's 1 degree. Sunny conditions in Beijing, highs of 3 and lows of -7 going into early evening. And it's a foggy morning in Paris at -1, lows of -1 and highs of 4. 3 degrees and cloudy in London, highs of 8 and lows of 3. And finally in New York, the Big Apple's ringing in Wednesday at -4. 5 will be the high and lows of -5.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, Uhuru Highway is doing a thing. We're looking at all the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out towards Westlands, moving very slowly. That is inbound traffic. Coming off of Ngong Road, that still continues. And Jogo Road, a little bit better than what we saw earlier in the morning. Much, much better situations what we're looking at now. Langata Road also has eased off quite a bit. And coming off of Thika Superhighway, there's that stretch just after the Outer Ring junction. And then you're fine all the way through until you get to the Pangani Underpass. And that continues to be a bit of a mess. Shall we look at it through the morning? SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
It
Spice
continues
FM,
at 17
Nairobi.
minutes to 10. The conversation this hour is about vetting of voters. As we head towards this year's general election, what we'll be doing on this show is hosting very many of the aspirants for whatever seats, from MCA to governor to National Assembly, Senate, woman rep, or presidential. We will be asking them a series of questions, and we want to engage with you as well. How are we going to vet our next crop of leaders? It cannot just be 6-piece. It shouldn't be. There's got to be something more. How did you end up on that ticket is one way, but what else are we looking for?
You know, when somebody has an element of guarantee, then the requirement for them to actually do something that appeals to the people goes out of the window. Because it is not the people whom they owe the position that they're seeking. No, they know very well that all they need to do is to be in the right party, and that's just about it. And when it comes to issues of accountability, if and when that person indeed does get to the coveted or the desired political position, once again, they do not feel that they're answerable to the voting public at all. They do not owe them anything. And some crude, short-sighted individuals actually tell the electorate this. Plainly and clearly. So, I say crude because they're saying something that isn't covered in any coating. It is as clear as it can possibly be. Yes, I don't actually need you to get elected, and it's not you who put me here.
I think there's also the reality that the majority of folks who are getting into these positions don't see it as a job, don't see it as a responsibility then, that and don't even see it as an act of service to the country. It's never seen like that. And that is what then gives birth to that kind of attitude, whereby you're speaking to someone and saying, well, look, it's great if you vote. If you don't vote, it's also great too. I'm going to get into this position.
Yeah.
Because you do not see it as a job that you are doing, a responsibility that you owe to the country and its citizens to do it right.
An honor that has been bestowed on you.
Yeah, if you were held by the same standards that people who work on a monthly basis do, for example, if you were held by those KPIs, structures of a contract, for example, if you were held by those and had that understanding, not understanding, appreciation for that position, I think we would see a very, very different thing here. Then it would be important for somebody to say it's important to be vetted. Look at the vetting processes that we go through for other delicate things in countries and continents.
By the way,
if you had to go through that and then be accountable for your actions, trust me, they would also see the importance of a vetting system.
They actually do go through a vetting system, but it's usually a political party vetting system.
So then the one that doesn't really matter to the rest of the country.
The one that matters to the party, and the one that takes advantage of the fact that certain parties have a sway and a hold in certain regions. That is what they take advantage of. So the vetting has to do with how much you can actually prove successfully that you can suck up to the leadership of that particular party. That's the requirement. So your ability to do certain things, perhaps what might be considered is your ability to contribute to the party financially. Your ability to take the party position, whatever that is. But as to your ability to actually serve the people, that doesn't really come into that list of things that is considered. Not really.
And I think it goes back to what we say here very many times about which of those 6 seats is the most important to you. Kokimuli has told us, this is what she was told in the 80s. And that changed her perspective and what made her to start participating in the electoral process. The most important leader to you is that one who's closest to you. If we actually, all of us, just change that paradigm and we started seriously vetting the MCA. So the MCA will not be coming to you because he's the chief campaigner in the governor race for the governor. He's not coming to you because he's the chief campaigner, because that's what we end up with. We end up, the person who's a chief campaigner for MP or governor that you like, who's in this party, is one who's also vying for MCA position. If this person is somebody who is looking to be the leader in the county assembly, your representative in the county assembly, and you vetted like that, and you identify those leaders, then they'll also be holding the governor to serious account. We'll end up having a president who knows that he owes his vote to the people and is being held accountable by people whom he cannot just wake up and switch over. That the leadership of the National Assembly, those who are in the National Assembly, are not answerable to a president. That means that our parliament cannot be captured by the executive because they don't owe the president nothing. Today, our MPs owe the president everything. That's why he decides, I need somebody else to chair that committee. He can decide who chairs the committee in Parliament. Because we voted for the president and everybody else owes their allegiance to that person who's the president. That's a problem we have. We need to switch over and start vetting these people at the local level, at MCA level. So you want to be my MCA. It's not about whether wewe uko kwa chama gani. It's not whether wewe uko kwa Raila ama kwa Ruto ama kwa... That's not the question. There should be other questions that we ask.
There should be issues that are being paid attention to. And you know, it's interesting because when we look at it, it was previously, I mean, we're talking about many years ago, in previous administrations, it was the issues on the ground and how the individual that who you wanted to bring into a position of leadership was going to help to sort out those issues. And then you made a decision based on that. And I keep going back to this point, that issue-based politics, issue-based leadership is greatly lacking. It's about the individual and then everybody coalescing around this individual for the positions that they can get. When it moves, we will know. When there's a shift, you will know. And right now, that's not where it is. That's why you can have the things that you're having right now. That's why you can have that attitude of somebody saying, well, you know what, I'm going to win whether you want to do this or not. People will vote, but I'm still assured of my position. Because it's not about making you and the country better. It's about them and selfish interests. Those that make a difference stand out like a sore thumb because they're in bad company.
Yep.
Quote unquote.
Yep.
They're in bad company. So they stand out because they've actually done something that goes against the grain of practice in the political sphere. That is it. Now, until you start to change things around, until you start to insist, because right now you're talking about you get chosen or you get selected if you're in good books with the party. What about the remaining 47 million people who are banking on you to make the country better? Who cares if you're in good books with the party leader? And we're talking about an election that's going to affect things nationally. We're talking about decisions made that are going to make things better.
You know, the vetting process as we speak of it, and the only way we can change the ethos that reigns within our political systems or political parties is when they notice that that particular method isn't working. We've seen cases, and they have grown, of party domination in certain areas, and yet individuals are elected who are not in that party.
Yep.
It tells you that community has vetted and they've decided it is okay. You belong to this party.
This is our person.
Yeah, we do not have a problem with the party leader. That one we will vote for. But you, we don't want you. We want this other person, irrespective of whichever. If I deliver and tell you, align yourself to this particular party.
Yeah.
And we'll vote for you.
And you've seen even candidates, I mean, there are very many examples, not just in this current parliament, even before, where you saw Paul Muite, for example, vying on Safina.
No. Who had heard of Savina?
And he gets elected.
He does.
Or Paul Muite vying on Ford Kenya in Central.
And he gets elected. What does that tell you?
People are not looking at, whether you're in Ford Kenya, and you've seen very many others, George Nyanja, not in the political party that is dominant in the region, but they get elected. It tells you that people were at some point looking at it's the individual. You will give you the job to go and represent us in parliament. We know who you're electing for president. That is different.
You know what is of interest is how the voting public even know how to demarcate this. They'll tell you this particular party is not this party of ours, but it is not against our party. So if you stand, it doesn't appear like you're opposing, but it is you we want.
Yeah.
So you go there. I'm saying this because I saw a governor being elected in Migori County on a PDP. The MP of the constituency I belong to. First election, PDP.
PDP ticket.
And he beat a two-term MP. When he vied the second time, he went with the party, but he got elected again.
Yeah.
Which means there's something he has understood. The voter also vets and tells you what they think when you see who they keep voting in. This gentleman who has been caught with his tongue around his neck, Richard Onyonka, is a 3-term MP.
Yep.
The people like Eseli Simiu, 3-term MP. It's not easy to become a 2-term MP in this country. By the time someone is a 3-term MP, there is something this person is doing right. And people have looked and they've said, it is okay.
We understand. We endorse.
Yes. There are people who throughout their political career have not even lost one election. They may not be members of parliament, they may be in Senate, or they may even be governors. But the people have constantly...
Wherever they vie, they get elected.
They get elected. People say, Apana, so and so, it is okay. Let them get it.
You continue.
Which means at some level, there is a vetting process that people understand. And they realize this person does good for us. With him as our leader, our lives change and our lives are better.
Indeed. Yes. Go to the phone lines for a bit. Patrick in Vihiga, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
I'm interested in this conversation. And I would like to say that one side of multipartyism coin is very dangerous to the people or to the people of the country. Because there is a struggle for seats, struggle for recognition, and not a struggle to provide services. As for now, you can see, so we have so many members of parliament since 2017. They have never uttered a word, never contributed on any debate because of party loyalty. Party loyalty has spoiled good debaters. So once the leader has been elected and he feels if he criticizes the government on the ills it's doing, he will be reprimanded by the party.
Yep.
Then he keeps quiet. You have mentioned the likes of Paul Muite, Nyanja, and so on. We have got so many examples today. Look at the MP of Kisumu Town East. And then the deputy for Kisumu East. Yeah, in a region where you don't expect them to be nominated, to be elected on the other or on non-dominant parties.
Yep.
But they are there. So the problem is the party loyalty, where you have to sing the tune of the party leader, has spoiled many debaters in parliament, has not spoiled leadership.
That's true. That's
so
very true.
Our MPs are shy, they cannot contribute anything.
That's true.
So I expect the people expected to be vibrant in parliament are independent candidates. Yeah, because nobody will reprimand them because they have said this and that in the government.
Asante. Thank you,
And
Patrick.
you see, if your party leader is corrupt,
Kuisha.
Expect.
okay, yeah, you don't expect his party members to talk about it, and that's why we have rampant corruption in government.
That's true. Thank you very much, Patrick. Yeah, Zachary.
Oh, good morning. Now, very
Good
quickly.
morning. Yes, in 30 seconds.
Because functionally we are short of time, yeah?
Yes.
And that guy has talked most of the things that I want to talk, and he's good, yeah? First of all, I start by making a complaint. Yesterday, I searched for the clip. Yesterday's clips. It was 11th. I normally tell you that I go through the whole clip. That is my first thing in the evening.
On
yeah?
YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube. Yeah. I spend a lot of money on that, and I look at the body language of your guest.
So yesterday's show, are you saying yesterday's show was not uploaded?
It wasn't the whole. I don't know.
Oh,
It
bits
wasn't
of it,
only Kabogo's clips, the semi clips, yeah?
Okay.
And I looked at him, the body language. I really go through your program and on YouTube, and I look at everything, yeah?
It is there, Zachary.
It is there.
Yeah, it's there. You'll find it.
Oh, okay. I've gone out through it in today's and yesterday's. Now, very quickly, the vetting that you are talking about is on the ground. When you come here, we only check who gave the largest amount of money. That is one, yeah? The second one, I would want to add you to a question, to a questionnaire. And I did it last, the time our governor was there, the Mr. Murizia. I wrote it then, he read it, and he never responded. And he asked him, where do you think Kenya shall be after the 9th of August this year?
We'll add it to that questionnaire.
Yeah, that you add that one, and you tell them, yeah, be an ambassador of peace. Whether you're an MCA, a presidential candidate, or whatever, we tell them that they have.
Thank you, Zachary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your calls this morning and for listening to the Situation Room today. Reminder City tukiendaga. Today's proverb.
Kupenda sio kitu, kupendwa ni kitu, lakini kupenda na kupendwa ni kila kitu.
Bas, kupenda nothing, kupendwa something. Kupenda na kupendana everything.
Yes.
Good proverb. Thank you for tuning in. Join us again tomorrow morning from 10 a.m. Have a lovely Wednesday. It's now 10 o'clock.